Well, this weekend will be a consequential weekend for so many teams in college football, or will it be a consequential weekend? That's where we dive in to start the show today. Tried to get there yesterday, just couldn't get there, but starting the show with the most consequential games of week 9 in college football. We'll also, don't worry, get to the biggest news of the day with the NBA. Stay tuned. Turn it on and leave it on. We'll get to that later in the show. Welcome into Wire to Wire. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson. And Diesel, as the season starts rounding that corner, heading toward the home stretch, these games really mean more, to pull a phrase from the old SEC. And this weekend, we've got some consequential games for a lot of teams in the country. How are you?
Well, do they mean more? I mean, in this expanded college football playoff era, you could drop an important game and it doesn't really hurt y'all that much. You can still get into the playoff. It might ruin your seeding just a little bit. Might give you a slightly tougher road. You got to win one more game on your way there. But I'm not sure that there are uber consequential games unless you're talking about teams that are sitting at that 2-loss mark who could lose a third and ultimately be pushed out of the college football playoff picture.
You said you're not sure that there are consequential games unless you're a 2-loss team. Well, guess what? Those are mighty consequential. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Those
Good
are
point.
Those are mighty consequential because you are on the bubble. And I'll even throw another one in there. I'll throw another wrench in there at you, Diesel. If you're 7-0 Georgia Tech, yes, to your point, it is an expanded college football playoff, and you can afford to drop a game, right? Or can you, if you're a Georgia Tech out of the ACC?
You know, if you're going to be looked at as a bubble team at some point, even if right now you're sitting at undefeated or one loss, if you're in one of those weaker conferences that in all likelihood could shave off one of your entries even into the college football playoff. And what if the ACC is sitting there now looking like maybe they could get 3 teams in? And if somebody loses a game, now the ACC might only get 2 games in.
And to peel it back another layer, I asked Diesel the most consequential games this weekend. Consequential could also mean in terms of a coach getting fired. If this certain coach were to lose this weekend, could be time.
I was playing checkers in my mind. You're playing chess over there, okay? You're thinking 3-dimensionally.
That's
you
right.
got a lot of different ways to look at this.
So many ways to peel back that onion. Tolos, also the Upset Picks Challenge is open as of right now. Well, 3 minutes ago, actually. Z Breeze already getting his upset pick in. Don't forget, don't wait too late. 844-326-3663 is the Hub City Spartan Burgers text line. We need your name, your game, and the spread for the Upset Picks Challenge. Diesel has submitted his. I've submitted mine. And unfortunately, I don't feel real confident for whatever reason. I went to bed last night thinking, I don't know if I chose the right game.
Here's the thing, Cole. You're not confident about choosing a 5-2 team to upset a 2-5 team. I don't know how much more comfortable you can feel.
I shouldn't have read those predictions.
That's a really, really, really likely upset. I don't know what the matchup predictor was on the ESPN card, but I would imagine Cal has like a 49% chance to win this ball game. Again, like we talked about yesterday, I'm wondering, what does Vegas know? What are they seeing that we don't see?
So
it's not like Virginia Tech all of a sudden is a good football team.
Diesel, in the matchup predictor that you're talking about, according to ESPN Analytics, Virginia Tech has a 74% chance to win the football game.
I mean, I know Cal hasn't beaten anybody, but I mean, come on.
And Cal is left with a 25.9% chance. I don't know.
It's not like Virginia Tech's beating anybody either.
I know. They're in the same conference. This game's tomorrow night, by the way. So this is the game that no one really understands, I guess.
You can't base your matchup predictor off of it's a Friday, so freaky things could happen. Freaky things happen on Fridays in the ACC.
Freaky Friday.
I don't know. I mean, I don't get it.
I don't either. You're not the only one in that.
Who has Virginia Tech beaten to this point?
They beat a really good.
They beat Wofford and NC State. Oh, yeah. We'll text her the other day who was saying Wofford's a lot better team than anybody gives them credit for.
That's actually why Virginia Tech.
They beat Wofford 38-6. Right. Okay. They beat them 38-6. They barely beat NC State 23-21. Almost let NC State come back in that game. Where's Dewey? Where's Dewey all over the resident Virginia Tech Hokies fan?
I'm telling you.
Almost let NC State come back on him.
You never know with these upset picks. So this one's tomorrow night. It'll be a lot of fun to follow along. Tolo's 844-FAN-PHONE. That's FANFONE. We need an overwhelming amount of text today on the show for the Upset Picks Challenge. Diesel, get your consequential scale out, please, sir.
Okay.
Pull it out of your backpack, and I want to ask you about a few games in terms of the consequences that these games will have if, and I mean if, we saw a massive upset on Saturday at noon with Indiana and UCLA. By the way, UCLA 3-4. They're 3-0 since they made the coaching move, right? Indiana's favored by 26.5 points, Diesel. On the consequential scale, and I want to hear from you, Tolos, as well, on the same phone number, 844-326-3663. If we were, and I don't think it's going to happen, but if we somehow, some way were to see UCLA pull the upset, how consequential, and however way you want to look at it, would that loss be for Indiana?
Honestly, I don't think it would be. I think it's pretty low on that consequential scale because they're sitting at 7-0. They'd be at 7-1. And then they've got Maryland, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Purdue after that. 4 very winnable games. So let's say they drop this game to UCLA for whatever reason, and they go on a run, they right the ship, they figure it out for the last 4 weeks of the season. Now you're talking about an 11-1 football team. That team's getting in the playoff. That team is getting in the playoff, probably going to the Big Ten championship game, depending on, let's see, Big Ten standings. That's an interesting question here. Big Ten standings. Who else is right there with them? Big Ten.
And they're in the same. Big Ten still has divisions, right?
Big Ten does not have
divisions. No,
divisions.
it went divisionless.
So you got Northwestern at 5-2 already. Oregon's got 1 loss. Ohio State and Indiana, the 2 teams that don't have a loss.
I forgot last year was the first year of the divisionless Big Ten.
It feels like Ohio State's going to run the table. So
let me ask you this question.
And Indiana holds the head-to-head against Oregon.
Now, I was thinking prior to last year when there were divisions, Indiana and Ohio State were in the same division, so they couldn't play for the conference championship game. However, they can now, right? They can play. If they were to lose this game and then lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, they'd have 2 losses. Then they would look back at this UCLA game and think that was more consequential than we realized, right?
I don't know. I think, number one, it would depend on the nature of the loss to Ohio State in the conference championship game. You keep it close, nobody even goes back and looks at the UCLA game. But if you lose big, for example, they go back and say, well, you had another loss and you looked really bad. Like maybe a quarterback throws like 4 picks in this game, right? Maybe that's what happens. Maybe Fernando Mendoza just has an awful football game and it makes us all question and rethink what we think about him as a player. But then again, it's a loss in the conference championship game.
Sure.
It's that extra data point that anybody behind them, 3 through 4 or 5, doesn't have. And I don't know that would be enough cause to push a team out of the 12-team playoff. It's not a rule, is it, that if you play in the conference championship game, you're pretty much granted a spot in the college football playoff? To this point, obviously, still very new. It hasn't happened yet where a team that participates in the conference championship game, even the losing team, gets pushed out. I don't think it really matters if they lose to UCLA.
What if, let's continue the what if on the big point spread games in the 12 noon window. What if Diesel 3-4 Syracuse without Steve Angeli, obviously, took down Georgia Tech? It would be a bad loss because Syracuse is a way different team, a completely different team at 3-4 without Steve Angeli, right?
Yeah.
They would have, Georgia Tech would be 7-1 with that 1 loss to a 3-4, now 4-4 Syracuse team. Georgia Tech, I don't know that Georgia Tech's going to get the benefit of the doubt if they have 1 loss going into the college football playoff. Will they? I don't think they will because of the conference, because of who they played. Now, they do have a win over Clemson. Yeah. What's that win over Clemson mean now?
Well, they wouldn't get that benefit of the doubt because it's a Steve Angeli-less team, right?
Correct.
They would have to play awful football. Comparing that without going all the way back, UCLA is one of the hottest teams in college football right now. Mm-hmm. They changed the coach. They're on a win streak. Mm-hmm. But with Syracuse, they're down bad. They lost their quarterback. They've been on a free fall ever since. Not their fault. It's really disappointing to have Angeli's season and Syracuse season pulled out from under the rug like that, or under their feet like that.
Sure.
It is. But if you lose to a team that has not been competitive 3 weeks in a row, it has not been competitive since Steve Angeli left the team, blown out by Duke, blown out by SMU, blown out by Pitt. If you somehow lose to them, there is no benefit of the doubt. So this is a wildly consequential game for Georgia Tech.
I don't think they lose. I don't think you think they lose either, but just somehow, some way, if it were to happen. Now, let's look at the SEC for a minute, talking about consequential games. Also at noon, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Oklahoma Diesels favored by 5.5 points on Saturday. Both of these teams enter this game at 6-1. And I look at this game between Ole Miss and Oklahoma and think, this is a big one. Both teams Ole Miss is 3-1 in conference. Oklahoma Diesel's 2-1 in conference. If Ole Miss were to drop this game, look at the fall in the SEC standings. Yeah. If Oklahoma beats Ole Miss is going to drop all the way down to the Vanderbilts, the Texases, the LSUs, 2-loss teams, Tennessee, another Florida 2-loss team. When you talk about Ole Miss getting in the college football playoff, and Oklahoma's kind of in a similar boat outside of the conference record, being different, Diesel, I look at this one, and you and I could be talking about the loser of this game being left out when it's all said and done, just because of the depth of the SEC.
Well, we're expecting the SEC to have, 3, maybe 4, probably 4 teams in the playoff.
I was thinking
year.
12.
Well, right now you're looking at A&M, Alabama, Georgia, and likely the winner of this game. Because I think there's a lot of people who are still very hesitant to maybe put Texas in a playoff. They are 2-1 in conference, so there is that. But they're number 22 because they've lost some bad games. I don't know that Texas kind of gets that benefit of the doubt unless you've got mass corruption at the college football playoff committee level where they're saying, hey, we got to put Arch in this thing because Arch is a story. And we don't want that story to end. Ole Miss can cement themselves inside that top 4 spot, and if they can be there with 4 or at 4, I think there's a real good chance that they kind of get that extra little nod, that extra little they lost a game or 2, but I think they're still good enough to win a game in the playoff.
Tolos, yes or no? At 844-326-3663. Also, the Tolos watching, the 48 Tolos watching on the stream, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Is the loser of this Ole Miss-Oklahoma game out of the college football playoff when it's all said and done? This one's in Norman, by the way. Mateer looked good last week, right? The hand injury, coming off of a win over South Carolina. Tolos, yes or no? Is the loser of this game out? T-Swizzle, what do you think? Lead us off on the stream.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Well, another problem is it's the SEC, and you're going to have a log jam in the middle because all the way down to – you can put how many? 12 teams. 12 teams are 2-2 or better in the SEC at this point. And we're going all the way down to the list of Florida, Tennessee, LSU, Vandy, Oklahoma, Missouri. You lose the second game here, then you're sort of in that no man's land where there's so many other teams around you that they're debating that you don't know if you're going to get that nod.
And that log jam is not where you want to be.
No.
Fortunately, last year, Tennessee found themselves on the right side of that logjam. You remember they didn't play for a conference championship.
Sure.
I think they were like the 8, something like that. I can't remember exactly off the top of my head, Diesel, but they didn't play for a conference championship. They made the college football playoff, and they were, in my opinion, they were in the best spot possible. Obviously, we know what happened. They met Ohio State, and that game did not end well for Tennessee. But I think it's mighty consequential. T-Swizzle says, starting us off here on the responses, loser is out. What happens when you have a 2-loss Georgia Tech team that beats Georgia but takes the L in the championship? So that's a fascinating question. A 2-loss Georgia Tech team. T-Swizzle, what 2 losses do you see on their schedule? They have Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, Pitt, and Georgia. Probably a loss.
Maybe Pitt. Maybe Pitt. And that, if they were to somehow go loss in the last 2 games of the season.
Ask Miami what happens when you lose late.
Right. Yep. And we had a texter here says that's a lie when I said that teams that lose in the conference championship game don't get pushed out. He says that's a lie. Florida State got pushed out. We're texter, you're being argumentative. You know that there were extenuating circumstances when your starting quarterback goes down. It wasn't just that they lost the game. It was that they lost the guy that made them go.
Yeah. Boomer Bill says, I think the loser would be out. I think so. I think the loser, Boomer Bill and other Diesel, I think the loser's in a tough spot. I think the loser needs a lot of help, right? Mm-hmm. You're the loser of this game, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. Good luck finding a game this weekend more consequential. Let's see. T-Swizzle asks, but if the pick UGA off, you can't leave them out. You're talking about Georgia Tech?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Can we just get another one of those 8 overtime games like we had last year? Can the world get another one of those?
How many chances does Brent Key need to beat Georgia? Here's 8 chances, Brent. Oh, no, I can't do it. Can't do it. That's embarrassing. But it was a good game. You're right. Let's see here. We've got to run to a break in just a minute or two, but consequential games continuing this weekend. That is where we're starting the show today on Wire to Wire. Top 25 games. We mentioned UCLA, Indiana, mentioned Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Virginia's not losing to North Carolina, so we don't really have to discuss that one, Diesel. Virginia's a 10.5-point favorite. We know that a 3-0 Virginia team, it would be mighty consequential if they lost to North Carolina because they're horrible, but that's not going to happen, is it?
No.
Surely not.
No.
Surely not. Now, here's a fun one, maybe to end on. What if Bama were to lose to South Carolina?
Oh, God.
What if Bama were to lose, Diesel? Alabama would be 6-2.
They would burn Kalen DeBoer in effigy.
What?
They'd have to. They'd have to somehow take him down off of his pedestal and then burn him in effigy in the same weekend.
I'm just telling you. It could. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying when you talk about consequential games, they would have a loss to Florida State, who's not good.
Right.
They would have a loss to South Carolina, who's not good. And we would be having the same conversation we did last year, Diesel, with Alabama about, does this Bama team deserve to get in? Last year they got left out, ended up losing to Michigan in the bowl game. That could be a consequential game. Missouri, Vandy. Hey, 2 6-1 teams also consequential.
The good news is we get to go behind enemy lines coming up at 4:00 with Chris Stewart, play-by-play voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, to talk about that very game, talk about their focus, how they're trying to maintain that in year number 2 of Kalen DeBoer. That's coming up at 4:00. But coming up in the very next segment, we're going to talk South Carolina Gamecocks with Jordan Kay of the State newspaper in the States segment. talking Alabama, South Carolina throughout the show today. Again, coming up at 4 o'clock, we'll have the play-by-play voice of Alabama on the show. Now to get it from the South Carolina's perspective, we talk to Jordan Kay of the state newspaper. Jordan, welcome into the show. It seems as if bowl eligibility kind of hinges on these next 2 to 3 games. You got to beat one team that's far better than you, Alabama, Ole Miss, or Texas A&M, and then you got to beat both of Coastal and Clemson, who we don't really know who Clemson is. Can you pick 3 wins out of the remaining 5-game slate?
If you want to be pretty generous, you could say they beat Clemson. That's, I guess, 1. They're going to beat Coastal. That's 2. I mean, I don't see them winning one of the next 3. I mean, maybe Ole Miss lays an egg at home. I feel like every season, the Lane Kiffin team has one stinker, and they really haven't had that yet. So maybe that's the one. But, based on how South Carolina's been playing right now, that seems unlikely. So, I mean, there is a path, but, man, it's not an easy one.
Jordan, kind of going off of that conversation about bowl games, we know the SEC is a gauntlet year in and year out. But now that Shane Beamer has settled in at South Carolina as the head football coach, do you think having the conversation about bowl eligibility on the 23rd day of October warrants a warm seat conversation, or is this just what you get every few years when you do play this schedule?
Well, I think it's probably a little of both. Is Shane Beamer on the hot seat right now? No. But this is not a season he can have consistently and expect to be here for, 5 to 10 years. South Carolina, if you remember 2 years ago, goes 5-7. And the feeling at that point was like Shane Beamer is nowhere near the hot seat. But if this happens again, all of a sudden those conversations start happening. Well, no, those conversations didn't have to happen because credit to him and his staff. I mean, they found pieces in the transfer portal. Lenore Sellers broke out. They win 9 games. All of a sudden you're coming into this season with those playoff hopes. And then it's dashed again. And so, I don't think Shane Beamer is on the hot seat. Warm, maybe. But, he's proven once that I guess he can right the ship after a bad season.
Jordan, if you were advising Lenora Sellers, and I've just put you in a big time role here. If you were advising Lenoris at the end of this season, what would you tell him to do? Would you tell him to come back to South Carolina, even though there may not be a ton of hope that the offensive line play and everything around him is going to make him successful next year? Would you tell him to hit the transfer portal, go somewhere where he could just really show out and ball for a year? Or would you tell him, go ahead and take your chances, go to the NFL?
Option 3. I don't even think it's close. I need to start, asking about it more, but I still think based on, kind of the mock drafts we've seen that Lenora Sellers is going to be, a first round quarterback. And I think he's one of those guys that is going to be able to wow in interviews and going to be really good at the combine. And NFL teams are going to be able to kind of look past this season a little bit and be able to diagnose, okay, is Lenora Sellers not ready for the NFL, or was he not put in positions to succeed at South Carolina? And I think you're going to see a lot of NFL teams kind of fall in love with some of the high-end potential of Lenora Sellers and feel like, hey, we can kind of fix the other stuff. And, with our play callers and with our offensive line, I have a hard time thinking that he's going to come back to school when we're only, 3 or 4 years removed from Anthony Richardson getting drafted in like the top 20. And I think Lenora Sellers is kind of on the higher end of where Anthony Richardson was, 3 or 4 years ago.
So what's your gut tell you in terms of Lenora Sellers in 2026? Where do you think he'll be?
I think he'll be in the NFL is my gut right now. Obviously that could change, but right now it's kind of what I'm thinking.
Talking to Jordan Kay of the state newspaper, we touched on it there. Offensive line play has been a huge problem for South Carolina. Are there plays on the sheet designed to get the ball out in space quickly, get it to Fajon or get it to Attaway or Brian Rowe, who lines up in the slot a lot. I mean, have we seen those called consistently to the point where you feel like, all right, these are plays they practice on the regular, these are plays they feel comfortable running, or are we just going to see them bang their heads against the wall against Alabama?
You see them in spurts. I mean, there'll be a couple screen passes or, one quick route, but man, it is not consistent at all. And it feels like it doesn't work once and they kind of go away from it. Yet, they run inside zone. That doesn't work. And they just keep pounding it like it's going to, all of a sudden break one time. There are times too where they seem to have, short concepts and quick things. And then, either Lenoir doesn't see it or he's kind of running for his life and they don't even have time to get it out. I also think some of these defenses understand that, they have to get things out quick and they can just play really tight on these South Carolina wide receivers. And I don't think many of these defenses are really scared about getting beat deep because Lenoir isn't going to have enough time. And so, Mike Field is not in an easy position based off, the offensive line, but, you look at the offense and there's very little creativity to try and get those guys involved. They do try things, especially on, some of those opening drives, but it kind of fades after that.
Jordan, one more big picture question for me before we get into Saturday. You mentioned a few minutes ago that you don't think Beamer seat is hot. It might be a little warm. Does what happens the rest of this season dictate that scale or pendulum swing at all in your mind?
I don't think what happens at the end of this season, I think most fans and people have kind of resigned themselves to the fact that this is going to be a poor season, but sure. All it takes is Shane Beamer opening the offseason by letting Mike Shula go and hiring someone else, and all of a sudden hope is restored. He's in a pretty easy position right now to kind of win back favor and be able to go on his offseason speaking tour and say, hey, we've got it fixed. We're good to go for another year because, there's a tangible change. If he doesn't get rid of Mike Shula, man, there's going to be some outrage. But I think that's the pretty easy button to just kind of push and be able to shift the narrative a little bit and get people excited for 2026.
Well, Jordan, I'll ask you a little caveat to that question. What if the stretch includes a loss to Coastal Carolina? Because I saw that team play last week. They beat my App State Mountaineers in a back and forth game, and they handed the ball to their backup quarterback, whose numbers don't jump off the page at you as far as what he produced last week on the field, but he could take that team down the field for drives again and again and again. Like his numbers didn't jump out, but he was pesky.
I hadn't thought about that. I don't have a good answer for you, and probably speculation's a little early on it, but that would be interesting.
Jordan, it would be Jordan Kay of the State Newspaper joining us right here on the Fan Upstate. When you look at Saturday, Alabama in town, it does not get any easier for the Gamecocks. What do you feel like is going to be the one thing that is the bugaboo in your mind? It could be offensive line again, completely up to you here. The full menu at your disposal. What's going to be the bugaboo for the Gamecocks Saturday, or is there going to be a bugaboo?
Yeah, I think right now what I've seen is Alabama's ability to just stop teams in critical situations, especially forcing turnovers. I think this is a team that's +9 on the turnover margin this season, has been really opportunistic with interceptions. You think about that Tennessee game late in the half, and Alabama just kind of dials it up perfectly. Granted, I think most people in the building knew they were going to throw the ball. They do a play action, but pick six there, and that's that Alabama Kane Womack defense really showing up in short yardage situations and then getting turnovers. For as poor as South Carolina's offense has been, it hasn't really turned the ball over an egregious amount this season. Some of that you could say is because they're not exactly like putting it into harm's way. There's very little, downfield shots or even thrown into tight windows. But, Lenora Sellers has been good at securing the ball, not fumbling, hasn't thrown too many interceptions. And South Carolina, against LSU, won the turnover battle and still lost the game. If they win the turnover battle against Alabama, at least might be in it. But if you lose the turnover battle to this Crimson Tide team and let Ty Simpson have the ball for 35-plus minutes, it's going to be a long day.
Jordan, it was 24-7, I believe, unless that safety had already occurred when Shane Beamer decided to sit Lenora Sellers and go to Cutter Woods. If the Alabama game sort of gets away from South Carolina again, and we're talking about a late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, Alabama's got a big lead. Do you see them sitting Lenora Sellers again and going to Cutter Woods? And on top of that, what has the coaching staff had to say about Cutter this week?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that Cutter Woods situation is exactly when you should put a backup in. I mean, game out of hand, no reason to have Lenora Sellers in there, possibly risk him getting injured for a meaningless play. And you let a true freshman go in and get reps. I got a double check of how many games Cutter Woods played because I don't think South Carolina wants to burn his red shirt. And if I think I'm right, I think he's played twice, 2 or 3 times. They probably want him to save some of his games in case something crazy happens later in the season. But no, Shane Beamer was asked about hey, why Cutter Woods there? And he kind of gave a runaround answer of, they like Cutter, but they also like all their other quarterbacks or whatever. I think it was probably Shane Beamer trying to get a true freshman some reps and kind of see, okay, hey, if Lenoris is gone, this could be our starting quarterback next year. Granted, Aaron Nolan could come back. There could be a competition. Landon Duckworth transfer. Who knows? But let's at least get this guy reps and see what he can do against SEC competition. And until he throws the interception at the end, I thought he looked pretty good. And granted, I don't know what string of Oklahoma's defense was in there, but he looked poised and the moment wasn't too big.
Hey, Jordan, what do you think the correlation is between the firing of Lonnie Teasley a few weeks ago now and what you saw Saturday against Oklahoma, what you'll see this Saturday against Alabama in terms of how the offensive line, the cause and effect, how the offensive line now being led by Sean Elliott helps this offense as a whole?
I didn't see any real change on the actual, once the ball was snapped, but you got to give Sean Elliott and the offensive line a lot of credit. I mean, no pre-snap penalties on the off. Heck, I don't think the entire offense had a penalty on Saturday against Oklahoma. And that point got overshadowed by the fact that, South Carolina lost by almost 20 points. But that was pretty impressive coming off 13 penalties against LSU. So Sean Elliott, I mean, I thought there's no chance he's going to fix this offensive line. But if he can just fix the penalty problem,
sure,
that's going to give South Carolina a chance. And there's just so many holes on this team. It's you pass one up and the leak springs somewhere else. And so that was the problem a little bit is they were really stout and really smart, not jumping early, no illegal snaps. And yet, the guys, so many injuries that kind of showed up and they just kept getting beat.
Jordan, do you know what it was that Sean Elliott did to fix those penalties?
He was in practice, acting like a linebacker. I mean, really trying to rattle these guys in practice, standing right over them, yelling, clapping. Shane Beamer said he was barking at them. And so just trying to fluster them more in practice and get them ready for a game environment. I think that was part of it. And then, maybe it's just something clicked with the offensive line too.
Jordan, I don't know if there was anything in the fourth quarter of that game, but to your point, South Carolina didn't have an offensive penalty until 56 seconds to go in the third quarter. It was a false start, which I think that might have been, like you were saying, that might have been their only offensive penalty of the game. They did have a DPI a little bit earlier in the third quarter of that game. But Mike Shula said yesterday in his availability that they just didn't get into a good rhythm against Oklahoma. Clearly, they want to try to do that this weekend against Alabama. What do you think that means to him? It's sort of a very vague thing to say. We didn't have good rhythm. Is that pre-snap timing? Is it finding personnel combos? Is it down by down positive yardage? What do you think he meant by that?
The way I interpreted it is just converting on third downs. South Carolina started that game, 0 for 7, 0 for 9 or something on third down. So it's pretty hard to get a rhythm when you're not moving the chains at all. And you can't sustain drives if you just keep going 3 and out, or, get a first down on, first down, have a couple big plays in your first third down. So I think that's what he means is, hey, we've got to make sure we're picking up yards on third down, moving the chains, and being able to sustain drives and not relying on, a Matt Fuller 72-yard touchdown like we saw against LSU as our means of scoring, or needing a 4th and goal to pass to Nick Harbor to get us to score. It's, hey, can we kind of sustain drives, get into an actual offensive rhythm where we're moving the chains and, score that way. So that's kind of the way I took it. But you're right. It was very vague, and I guess could realistically apply to about 15 different things.
Jordan Kay of the State newspaper joining us for just a few more minutes on the Fan Upstate. Jordan, my last question for you. When you look at this matchup on Saturday, we were talking about consequential games going back to the very first segment of the show, and what games this weekend could be the most consequential. Let's just say South Carolina were to pull the upset and take down Alabama. From a big picture standpoint, is an Alabama team with 2 losses and maybe more, but with 2 losses to Florida State and South Carolina in a consequential way, do you think that really puts them on that bubble, or maybe on the outside looking in?
Certainly the bubble, but no, I think if Alabama finished the season at 10-2 with a week 1 bizarro loss to Florida State and then a road loss to South Carolina, I think it's still in. A lot of these SEC teams are kind of beating themselves up, and really, if you're kind of looking around the conference, like Texas A&M is the one right now that seems to have basically the easiest path. Obviously, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, Texas could all kind of jump in there, but if Alabama handles its business, I feel like it has some of the best wins in the SEC right now, and would probably get in at 10-2, but it's not leaving much room for error.
Yeah. Jordan Kay of the State newspaper. I read your article earlier today, or was it yesterday, about the renovations coming to Williams-Brice at the end of the season, eliminating the top few rows of the west lower section to create more suites. Everybody kind of goes back into a lottery pool to maybe get their seats back. Can you tell us exactly what's going on there, and how the university might try to make it up to the fans who lose their seats and ultimately can't get back to, I guess, an amenable spot?
Yeah, so right now in that west lower side, which is the press box side, out of the sun, there's about 14,000 seats. And after South Carolina puts in, the suites, a new premium area, that's going to kind of be cut down to about 9,100. So you're losing like 4,100 seats in there roughly. And instead of just, saying to the people whose seats are no longer physically there, hey, you guys got to move, they're telling that to everyone in the West Lower, which is about 14,000 seats. So as you can imagine, people who have had season tickets for 50 years or even 10 years and made friends, tailgate buddies with the people around them are pretty pissed off right now. South Carolina felt like that was the only fair way to do it, is tell everyone in the section, hey, we're going to redo it. And if they want to be relocated, South Carolina is going to give them priority for the 2026 season. Say basically, hey, you have kind of first pick at it. If they want to wait until 2027, they're going to get bumped up a little bit in priority, but still not going to have exactly the first pick to be able to get those seats. And so there's a lot of people right now wondering, hey, are the tickets, am I going to even have a chance to buy my seats back or have a chance to buy in the West Lower? And the answer is maybe. And then they're asking, okay, if I did have a chance to buy my seats back, how much is it going to cost? And South Carolina doesn't know that yet. Yeah. And they want people to have patience, want, the season ticket holders to reach out to their reps and kind of just have patience, talk through it, try and figure out a plan. But people are very upset about this. And so, I think we'll learn more about, South Carolina's plan or how they're selling with the other stuff the next couple of weeks or months. But it's going to cause a lot of disruption over the next 2 years. And some people are pretty mad right now, and I don't think it helps that the football team is performing the way it is.
Jordan, as we let you go, man, how do you see this one playing out on Saturday?
I just can't see South Carolina scoring enough to be able to win this one. So I think it's going to be, fairly low scoring, but, something around like Alabama 31, South Carolina 14-17, somewhere around there. So depending on the spread, I think Alabama probably covers, but, I think it's going to be fairly low scoring.
You're the best, man. Appreciate you as always.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks,
Absolutely. Jordan K., the State Newspaper. Good stuff there. Tolos, if you missed it, you can jump back in on the free Odyssey app. But Diesel, we've got to jump into our Daily Wires. That's next. Diesel, I told you a couple days ago, as an NBA fan, I would love nothing more to have the Charlotte Hornets get good. And just like that, bam, the Charlotte Hornets are undefeated.
Yeah.
Can you believe that?
The
sorry.
buzz.
The buzz.
We're talking about the buzz around the sports world and
buzz
the buzz
in
around the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah. I mean, think about that. Undefeated on the season. How many times this season? Let's make a counter. I'll get a piece of paper out. How many times this year will we be able to? This will be the last time. This will be the last time, right?
Maybe. Who do the Hornets play next? I don't know.
For how many days? This is amazing for Charlotte.
What win percentage roughly do the Hornets need to maintain to keep you interested in the Hornets? Because you said they had to be good before you would follow them.
It'd be around 500. No worse.
500?
No worse.
They will play the 76ers on Saturday at 7:30.
Yeah.
On the road.
This will probably be the last day we can say that. Probably tomorrow,
too.
What if they went 2 in a row? I guess the better question is, how long do they stay above 500? Brandon Miller was awesome last night out of Alabama, scored 25. LaMelo had 24 of 8 from 3 last night. Miles Bridges has 18. Con Knippel played 25 minutes, scored 11 in his NBA debut, so it was a good night. Cooper Flagg scored 10 in his NBA debut for the Dallas Mavericks in a 125-92 loss at home to the San Antonio Spurs.
So you're saying the Hornets got the better Blue Devil?
That's right. As of last night.
Just write it. Go ahead and write it now.
Cooper Flagg's no good. Only scored 10. Victor Wembanyama, he's back after an injury. He returned with 40 points in the Spurs win on Wednesday. That's the most for a player in a season opener in San Antonio franchise history.
I think he's got a future in this league.
Yeah, and that's saying something. You go look at the Tony Parkers, the Manu Ginobilis. Oh, my gosh, that's incredible feat. Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, and we're going to get into this in the 5 o'clock hour in Def Diesel, and Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups were arrested separately as part of an FBI sports betting investigation. The Eastern District of New York and FBI Director Kash Patel held a news conference this morning to talk about those arrests. Again, we'll get into that. A deep dive coming up at 5:20 on the show. The NCAA approved the rule change yesterday that will allow athletes and athletic department staff members to bet on professional sports. 2 weeks after the Division I cabinet approved the change, Division II and III management councils signed off on it, allowing the new rule to go into effect November 1. This does not change the NCAA rule forbidding athletes from betting on college sports, Diesel. The NCAA also prohibits sharing information about college competitions with bettors.
What about the sharing of information between, let's say, former teammates?
That's okay.
If you're at North Carolina and a guy that was on the team with you last year, he's playing in the NBA, if he can slide you some insider information, I mean, there's a conduit there.
Yeah.
This is a slippery slope territory, people.
It really is. The Upset Picks Challenge is OPEN right now, Tolos. We need your upset picks, 844-326-3663. Last night in college football, Delaware defeated Middle Tennessee State 31-28. They're now 1-6. Sorry, Derek Mason.
Do you know the Delaware mascot?
It's a bird.
It is.
Start with a P?
No. Starts with an H.
The fact that I know that it's a bird's impressive, right?
The hens, the blue
hen,
hens.
blue hen.
Hens.
That's right. I watched that game last night.
You did?
Yeah, believe it or not. No, I didn't lose a bet. New Mexico State lost to Missouri State 24-17. The over didn't hit, by the way, just in case you wanted to know. Tonight, South Alabama takes on Georgia State at 7:30 on ESPN2. Tonight in the NFL, the Vikings take on the Chargers, 8:15 on Prime. The Chargers are favored by 3.5 points. We briefly mentioned this yesterday, Diesel, but after days of negotiations, Tennessee coach Tony Vitello has been named the new manager of the San Francisco Giants. How about that? Big news for a really good college coach heading to the pros.
Congrats to him. Sucks to Tennessee.
It really does. This is the first time a big league team has hired a manager directly from a college program without any experience as a professional coach. So groundbreaking.
Yep.
The South Carolina men's soccer team, 7-6-2 on the season, fell to the Sun Belt foe number 9 Marshall 4-0 last night. Clemson's men's soccer beat UNCW 6-0 on Tuesday. They're 8-3-2 overall and tied for first in receiving votes, or tied for first in others receiving votes. Michigan State coach Tom Izzo blasted the NCAA, saying he doesn't respect the NCAA power brokers who have allowed the moves to happen that will see 2 former G League players committing to Division I schools, saying, I'm going to get myself in trouble, but I listen to people talk about how kids changed. Kids aren't the problem. We're the problem. This is sprung on us again yesterday, where a guy can be in the G League for 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden he is eligible. Most of my people knew nothing about it. I'm not really excited about the NCAA or whoever's making these decisions without talking to us, just letting it go. They're afraid they're going to get sued.
Here's the problem. As big of a voice and personality as Tom Izzo is, nobody's going to pay attention to him. It's not going to change anything until there's teeth.
No, and unfortunately, this is the era we're in. Last one for you: the 5-1 Carolina Hurricanes will face the 5-0 Colorado Avalanche tonight at 9 p.m. And those are your Daily Wires.
It's going to be a good game to watch. When we come back, Cole, let's go behind enemy lines. We'll talk a little Alabama Crimson Tide with Chris Stewart, play-by-play voice of Alabama. That's coming up next, actually about 5 minutes into the segment.
Can I read this text real quick?
Yeah.
Texter says, this is funny. Blue Hens actually starts with a B, not an H.
I'm aware. He said, okay, you said what kind of bird is it? A hen is a bird.
Yeah, it is. That's good, though. That's
the hen part. The blue is just they are the quote unquote literally the fighting blue hen.
That's
so
right.
I guess it starts with an F. And now we're back to that controversy again, aren't we? How about that? Talking Alabama football next. Solos, your week number 9 upset picks are due. 844-326-3663. That is the phone line. If you need help, and some Tolos have had a problem with this in the past, and you're on the stream, it's right there across the top of the screen. Just look right there. Text in, get us your upset pick. Roger Carper is taking Wake Forest plus 3.5 over SMU, and he did it right. His name, his game, and the spread. C-Dubs is taking Houston plus 7.5 over Arizona State. Kevin Buggs, Eastern Michigan plus 12.5 over Ohio. Tyler from the Berg is going Colorado plus 13.5 over Utah.
I texted him back because I also looked at that game last minute yesterday, and I thought the same thing. I literally thought the exact same thing. Tyler texted back, and he said, I just think Deion's due, and I need points. I thought being due is probably not a real thing, but I did think the exact same thing for the record. I thought, man, Colorado seems like Diesel. They're due for a big win this year. They haven't had a win, a big one, right?
Yeah.
And you just think that Deion and they're gonna break through.
They haven't had that big time road win yet. They lost to Houston 36-20 week 3. Then they lost to TCU on the road 35-21. They beat Iowa State last week 24-17. So maybe they get a little bit of rhythm going. Right. I mean, they just beat a ranked team last week. So certainly credit where credit is due, beating a ranked team anywhere, whether it's home, away, or neutral site.
Maybe that's the pick. Deal. Maybe that's it. Maybe that is the upset pick come Monday when we're on these airwaves. We're going to be saying, man, why didn't we all take Colorado? Because it's like 13.5 point or it's a lot. It's a big spread.
That's a big spread. And anybody who takes that one, we make sure we tell you this all the time. And we see it every year as we get deeper and deeper into the season. Some Tolos start to drop out of the challenge. Don't let that happen to you. Don't get discouraged and say, I don't have any points, or I only have 3 or 4 points, or if you're Rob, I only have 2.5 points. I don't like this challenge anymore. It can happen. You can hit a big one. Cole, last week you hit for how many points?
9.5.
You hit for 9.5 points, and you jumped all the way up to 64th place. And that may not sound like a lot, but you went from like 110th place
jump
to 64th place. And if you hit again on another good one, you're up for 4.5, 5.5 points this week.
So, yeah.
You could jump into the second column. All of a sudden, now you're sitting in that 45 range. And then you hit another one and you could be in the top 25. Well, it's a challenge that you can make up a lot of ground quickly. So Tolos, don't bow out of this challenge just because you don't have any points.
All that sounds good, but the reality is I've only hit twice this year. Well, Saturday made my second, and I'm struggling. Now, I am tomorrow. Diesel, last week, I was the biggest SMU Mustang fan on planet Earth.
Yep.
Tomorrow, I am the biggest Golden Bear fan on Earth. I need Cal. They are the Golden Bears, right?
Correct.
Golden Bears.
Which starts with a B, by the way.
Thanks.
Text, it starts with Golden Bears, starts with a G.
That's mine. I'm going Golden Bears, going with old Cal over Virginia Tech.
That's a good pick, man. A lot of people have taken that one. Cal hadn't really beaten anybody with a pulse yet, but they are 5-2, and that's got to count for something. I took App State plus 14.5 over Old Dominion. These are both 4-3 teams. Yeah, both teams are 4-3. Old Dominion got walloped last week against James Madison. I just wonder if there's a little bit of carryover and hangover from not looking good a week ago, and maybe they kind of peaked early and they start to slide as we get deeper and deeper into the schedule. And App State has talent on the team. They just haven't found a way to be consistent with it week in and week out. But 844-326-3663, get us your upset picks for week number 9. Maybe a lot of people, Cole, are waiting until we get that late Thursday report or Friday report.
Those injury reports
on whether or not guys are injured and out. Maybe people are waiting, and I'm just telling you, don't wait. Get your picks to us.
You know, that did not happen last year, I don't believe. I think this is the first year. So, and this upset picks challenge has been going on for many years. That changes things because these conference reports are required to come out on Thursdays.
I think we need to give people an extra point if they make their pick on Wednesday, right? Like you get a boldness point. You get a boldness point for picking early and hitting. You get that extra point. I think that's a good idea. I don't know.
No.
A lot of people sitting around waiting until Thursday, Friday to get their picks in. Don't be doing that. Don't be scared. Get your picks in now. 844-FAN-PHONE. Efforting Chris Stewart, the play-by-play voice of Alabama football. He's set to join us here in this segment. Still trying to get Chris on the show.
Hey, Chris,
a lot of big stuff lined up for the rest of the show. We've got the Tolo Takeover coming up at 5 o'clock, and at 5:20, we're diving deep, Cole, into that FBI meets mafia investigation into sports betting and a couple of big-time NBA stars.
He did text me. He's ready. He's good. He's coming on shortly, so don't worry. We don't have to pivot. We've got Chris coming up literally in seconds.
Okay, that is good news. But that is it's a wild story, and it just feels like we're getting more and more and more of these stories. And I do wonder, as they start to become more prevalent, and we just had one in college basketball, I think earlier this week, or maybe it was towards the tail end of last week. I just wonder how these books are going to deal with this, right? If there is mass corruption in the game with respect to sports gambling, how are they going to deal with that as far as upset players? Upset bettors on their platforms. That's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. But it's time to talk some Alabama Crimson Tide football as they're taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks this weekend.
It is time to go behind enemy lines. They do. It's intercepted. Picked off across the 20. Sabian Brown across midfield. One man to beat. Hesitates. Stays on his feet. Scores. Ain't a flag to be found. Sabian Brown took it to the house. 100 yards. And the Tide adds to its lead. Oh, mercy.
Wow, Chris, you're the first recipient of this new and improved intro for Behind Enemy Lines. I think Cole has Venmo if you want to tip him for that.
I don't know.
Welcome into the show.
Thank you. That was pretty nice. I need to do that. And I'm going to tip Sabian Brown as well. Last night at the radio show with Coach DeBoer, they played that. And he said, "Hey, nice call. That was really good." I said, "Well, thanks, but I don't want to forget Sabian's part in that. He kind of contributed, but it was fun. It was very, very special. Obviously, came at a huge time in the game, and given who it came against, it was terrific from an Alabama perspective. That's for sure."
Chris, did you see all of the videos after the fact on social media about the pop, the shot heard around the world almost in a way? By the way, this is Cole. Thanks for hopping on with us. Those videos were incredible, weren't it?
Yeah, they were. It's amazing, the technology, that just the way it is and the immediacy of everything, but also it tells you how much of an impact, sports and social media have, and how we're able to see all of that now. One of the coolest things, besides the aerial views and stuff from the top of the stadium, and which were pretty cool, there was one where they were literally 3 miles from Bryant-Denny.
Wow.
And you could hear the noise. I mean, you couldn't hear clearly, but it was audible. There was no doubt of what it was when you heard it. It was in that context, but it was pretty amazing. Everybody, that's one that people will talk about forever, that they were either there for or were watching when it happened.
Chris, I'm going to ask you one more serious question before we dive in and start having some fun here. As a person who lives in Alabama, wears that script A on his person just about every day, is Alabama white sauce actually good?
I love it, man. I'm a white sauce guy. I don't know that. I know that I'm in a smaller percentage. Yeah, probably the minority, but I'm even though I like red sauce, I'm more of a white sauce guy. Don't know why that's the case, but yeah, I really like it.
No, I'm with you on that.
certain places. Depends on where you're getting
That's right.
from, I guess.
That's right. Chris Stewart, play-by-play voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, joining us here in this Behind Enemy Line segment as the Gamecocks in action at home Saturday. Chris, when you look at South Carolina on film and you start studying and preparing for the broadcast, do you side with what Ty Simpson said in practice earlier this week, that their record's not indicative of how good of a team they are?
Yeah, I do, because I saw them, and I'll, candidly haven't seen as much lately, but I was watching a lot early. I'm a big Shane Beamer fan, and was watching a lot early in the year, and thought that is a dangerous team. And then you get beat up a little bit, and it's tough to kind of get back on rhythm again. And I think that's probably what's happened with South Carolina. That being said, I think they forced the same number of turnovers as Alabama's defense. We know it's not as if Lenore Sellers is now no longer a good quarterback. That's not true. He can play and is every bit the threat that we thought he would be coming into the season. And so his best, that's the thing that concerns you, is that the other side's best is good enough to play with you and anybody else. I mean, in South Carolina falls into that category, and it would not be the first time that an Alabama team was really good, came to Columbia and faced the other side's best efforts and came up with a loss that was devastating. So trying to avoid that again here on Saturday.
Chris, I was in Columbia last weekend, and I watched South Carolina try to run into that brick wall of the Oklahoma defense time and time again, and it just wasn't working. And obviously a lot of South Carolina fans want Mike Shula to completely change how he's calling games, which I guess would make them take advantage of the fact that they have a relatively weak offensive line, push the ball out in space. So far this season, how has Kane Womack's defense performed against teams like that can get the ball out in space and have athletes?
Yeah, there's been some success, but I think the adjustments they've made at halftime have been terrific, and the numbers show that. They've been a much more stingy defense in half number two, especially in the last few weeks as they've gotten better and better. I mean, that's I have to tell you guys, that's a Tennessee team that was averaging 48 a game coming in, and you hold them 28 below it. That's pretty impressive, to say the very least. Not that you expect a team to continue on the trend that they were, but 4 scores below that is pretty amazing. And Alabama's defense has given ground. It gave ground on Saturday. And frankly, I think that just the way that game ended was so amazing. The first half ends with a 99-yard return for a touchdown. The game ends with Tennessee ending right at the goal line and unable to get in again. And that was extremely, I think, satisfying for the team as a whole, but specifically that defense to wrap up the game the way they did.
Chris, when you look at the Alabama schedule and the way this team has continued to get better week after week, do you feel like this team is continuing to unlock new areas of the team, not just the offense, but their ability to continue to improve? And at what point do you feel like that ceiling, that peak has been reached? What do you see in terms of still areas, as good as this team is, areas still where this team can get better?
I think they would love to be able to run it in the traditional sense better. When I say the traditional sense, there are people that freak out over the fact that they've, the rushing yardage isn't where you're accustomed to for a championship level Alabama team. But the truth is there are a lot of things they do in the passing game that are really just extended handoffs. They're utilized the same as the run game would be. And you have the same type of effect and the same type of impact. That being said, you would love to be able to line it up and run it more effectively. And I do think they're capable of that as the line has gotten better. It improved over the course of the year as you've got Jam Miller healthier, certainly than what he was at the start, but also the guys behind him and Kevin Riley and Daniel Hill have developed and got better during that process as well. Those are all areas where they can get better. But part of why Alabama's been improving is they've just got finally healthier. Yeah, there's some guys that are still out, but the biggest keys for Alabama were Tim Keenan III at nose guard and Jam Miller at running back getting healthy. Those are the areas where Alabama really struck, not having a guy that was able to be your primary, not only runner, but pass blocker. The way Jam is, that really hurts your offense. But defensively, missing Tim in the middle of that front got you gashed time and again, whether it was the quarterback draws, whether it was, the regular runs up the middle with the running back or whatever it may be. Those were the things that hurt you the most in the Florida State game, as I recall. And so those are the key players. And yeah, you can talk strategy all you want, but more than anything else, Kalen DeBoer will tell you it's about players and people, and two of his most valuable ones are back and healthy and doing what they're capable of doing, which is play at an all SEC at a minimum level.
Chris, obviously Kalen's resume spoke for itself as he made his way down to Tuscaloosa. There's a reason why he got one of the most sought after jobs available in college football. What was it like for him and you watching him kind of weather that storm of a tough first season and really just, losses that Alabama is not accustomed to taking, and then leading into a second season with another loss to a team that Alabama fans feel like they shouldn't be losing to either? How did he weather that storm?
Yeah, the way he's approached almost every day, which is just about as steady as it gets. After I had been around him just a couple of months as the head coach at Alabama, he had not even coached a game yet. And it's natural in my position. People are asking me about him. And I said, look, I've never seen, and I said it then and I mean it now, I've never seen a better combination of humility and self-confidence in a person in that position than what Kalen DeBoer has. There's not an ounce of arrogance that I've ever seen out of the man. And at the same time, there's not one bit of fear or concern that he can handle the task in front of him, including one of, as you said, the highest profile jobs in all of sports, being the head man at Alabama. And the bulb gets brighter when you consider who he's following as its head coach.
Sure.
He has done an amazing job of embracing the tradition, the standard, and the importance that comes with that position. And at the same time, not let it change what allowed him to get that position professionally, and not change who he is in that process as well. I think he's, again, you've got to do it week after week, and you got to, as he says, you got to stack days. And he is stacking them up very well right now. Again, it can change in a heartbeat. We know that. There were a couple of people that I thought beforehand were sane that were sending me messages that we had to make a change after week one. And those are being saved for the appropriate time. Hopefully to send back to them. Sorry, I'm just now getting back to it, but would love to have you join us for the national championship celebration in front of the stadium this weekend. That's the one I'm hoping to be able to send out here in a few months, but we'll take it one game at a time first and see if we can get past the Gamecocks.
But, Chris, you know what's wild about that? Like, we joke about it, but that is reality. I told this story a couple of days ago. I have a friend who is a former Alabama player, offensive lineman, who was in the same camp after the Florida State loss. So it's not like it's just fans. It was it was gaining traction, but not in a I guess, tangible way.
Look, we've all got them. Everybody's like this, and we've all been guilty of it at one stage or another in our lives. If we care about sports anywhere at any level, we're all guilty. So I'm not casting a stone from a glass house, or I guess I am when I say this. But fan is short for fanatic, which is Latin for blithering idiot, because we all are ones at certain times. It's just the way we are. We have we don't just have blind spots. We got glaucoma when it comes to our team. We get so passionate about it. And I get it. That's what makes it great, especially at a place like Alabama. But thankfully, the guys that are at least at Alabama, not everybody's this fortunate, but we're pretty blessed to have a guy in Greg Byrne who's really level-headed, who listens to people that invest in multiple ways in the program, but he also tries to do what he thinks is right and best for the overall health and picture of things as well. And Bama football right now is pretty healthy. Again, you're only 2 days away from being diagnosed with something pretty bad again if you're not careful. But today it's really good, and I'm very thankful that's the case.
Chris, my last question for you here is we're talking to Chris Stewart, Alabama play-by-play voice. In the offseason, we heard Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss talking about the various group chats that he's got going with other SEC coaches. Doing play-by-play at that level, I'm sure there's some similarities in the camaraderie and the small, tight-knit group of guys who know what it's like to do that job at that level. What's that camaraderie or rivalry like between you and other SEC play-by-play voices?
It's I've got a couple. I've got probably my favorite one, and we'll pretend, since it's got a wrestling thing to it, I know who's wearing the mask, and so I won't reveal it. But there is a group chat of some guys that you all would know that we're all actually pro wrestling fans. And so the group chat, I named it Disciples of Gordon Soley. And so for those of you that are wrestling fans, you know who I'm talking about. So anyway, normally the chats are frankly about wrestling just to get our mind. It's a place to go for a distraction from the other stuff. But there are occasions that we're sending stuff within our business, our profession, or things like that. But it's actually kind of those are friends I've had for a long time, and it's kind of a fun distraction in the middle of what can be a crazy week.
Chris, you're the best, man. Really appreciate you taking time to hop on with us this afternoon here in South Carolina. Have a safe trip, and I hope to run into you Saturday in the press box.
I hope so too. I appreciate you having me, and thanks for this great weather you're giving us on the way up here. I'm actually on my way now, and it's awesome, and can't wait to get there.
Appreciate you, Chris.
Thanks,
Chris Stewart, play-by-play voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. You know what's funny about that is obviously he doesn't know. The Tolos, I think some of them know, some of them may not know. He throws a wrestling name at you and I, and we're like, What was he talking about? Who? If it were Lonzo and Rob, they would be drooling and having to use napkins to get, clean their face up. But you and I are sitting here looking at each other. What's he talking about?
You guys want a group chat about fishing or something? We can talk about that. You mentioned wrestlers, and it's just straight over my head.
And somebody's yelling at the radio, y'all don't know who so-and-so is? No. Do you know that name?
We watch Real Sports.
The name he mentioned?
Is it Gordy something?
I don't know.
I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know. I almost said, hey, you're calling into the wrong show, my friend.
Yeah, Rob and Lonzo are so mad at us right now, but my goodness, it's true. You above our heads on that one. In one ear and out the other. Let's do something that we normally don't do, Diesel. On Fridays at 5, we do weekend menu for college football. Let's do a little wrench in things and go weekend menu NFL edition and take a look at the biggest games this weekend in the National Football League. Tolos, want to hear from you as well next. Well, the NFL has been wacky, wild, and a lot of fun this season because you just never know what you're going to get. I guess you could say it's like a box of chocolates, Diesel. Anything can happen in the National Football League. On Fridays, tomorrow at 5, we'll do our weekend menu for college football. Let's do the same, though, for the NFL and try to find the best games. I know there's not as many time slots, but the best games for you viewers and our thoughts on those games as well. Tolos, want to hear from you and who your NFL team is playing this weekend. We'll find that game and highlight it very quickly at 844-326-3663. Diesel, any interest tonight in Minnesota, Los Angeles, a 3-3 Vikings team versus a 4-3 Chargers team, and a Chargers team who's favored by 3.5, but has not been playing their best football as of late.
I mean, it's a 50-50 ball game. If you look at the ESPN matchup predictor, it doesn't appeal to me a ton. Like there's no special attraction to this game other than, could we be seeing Justin Herbert just going off and having a huge season? I might tune in just to see kind of, is he able to get out of that little bit interception happy thing he's been doing all season long, take care of the football a little bit better. Maybe he gets back in line for an NFL MVP conversation. I know a lot early in the season, a lot of people were talking about him in that light, and he's thrown a lot of picks this season, so it hasn't been perfect for him. But you have an opportunity at home against a team that you're on paper a little bit better than, and Carson Wentz hasn't played phenomenal football this season, and maybe they just surprise some people and look clean.
Yeah, and if obviously I'm going to watch because it's NFL football and it's the only game on tonight, but if it were J.J. McCarthy versus the Chargers and Justin Herbert, I would have a little bit more of a vested interest. I'd be a little bit more excited about it, I guess. But with McCarthy and that ankle issue, missing his 5th straight game, you go back to Carson Wentz, right? You have Aaron Jones dealing with a hamstring. He returned to practice with a chance to play tonight. He's missed 4 straight. So the Vikings have been injury plagued. You would think, J.J. McCarthy and Aaron Jones, the former Packer, versus the Chargers, Thursday Night Football, that should be a heck of a football game. However, we talked about this a couple of days ago. Unfortunately, injuries have plagued some of the best players in the NFL this season, Diesel. So still going to watch, but I'm not going to lie to you. Carson Wentz doesn't really move the meter for me.
Well, it's going to be a better football game than this South Alabama, Georgia State college game on tonight.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spend the night watching sports, you're going to be watching NFL because you're not going to get a lot out of this South Alabama, Georgia State game. It's going to be played in front of maybe 4 or 5 dozen people.
Ooh, not even 100.
It's bad down there in Atlanta.
On Sunday, Diesel, the 1:00 window for the National Football League. By the way, no 9:30 game this week, no London game or wherever else they're playing nowadays. I know there are several more this season across the pond, Diesel, but
thank God. Those early games mess up my Sunday schedule.
Do they?
Yeah. Sunday morning's the only time I got to get over to the hardware store, get what I need to get, and get started on my weekend projects. When there's a morning game, I don't have that. I had to sit down and watch it.
1:00 in the window that we all love because there are so many games going on. It's a great time for NFL Red Zone. You have the 1-6 Dolphins versus the 3-3 Falcons. You would imagine, Diesel, even though the Falcons are 3-3, you would just imagine that Atlanta's going to have their way with Miami. At some point, the Band-Aid's going to be ripped off and McDaniel is fired, I think.
I think that's the only line worth betting on is whether or not Mike McDaniel is going to be fired after this week's loss.
They're just so bad. You just see nothing from them. And I know 7.5 points in the NFL is kind of a lot of points, but again, this is a horrible, horrible Miami team. They just have been kind of lethargic. They've really shown no signs of life. They've got 1 win on the season. So, I would think the Falcons going to take care of business.
We don't have the audio pulled up right now, but Mike McDaniel, my expectation is that we don't throw 10 picks this weekend.
Yeah, that's right. Speaking of bad teams, the 0-7 Jets going against the Cincinnati Bengals at 1:00. Again, you would think, man, take the Cincinnati Bengals in 6.5 because Justin Fields and the Jets have been horrible, and evidently there could be a little bit of a quarterback change in New York. So Not a ton of excitement about that one. 1 o'clock also on Sunday, New England hosting Cleveland. I guess we're getting the bad games out of the way first. New England's been really good, Diesel. They're 5-2.
Yep.
They're a 7.5-point favorite over the Cleveland Browns, who are now 2-5 on the season. They're 0-3 on the road. You would imagine New England takes care of business. Drake May's been sensational, 12 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But you know what makes the NFL so fun? Just when you think, oh, the New England Patriots are hitting their stride, the Cleveland Browns will win Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, Drake May's still a young quarterback. Even though he's played well so far this season, he's still young. Who knows? This could be that weird fluky game where he throws 2 or 3 picks, keeps the Browns in it, and then we'll see what happens.
Also at 1 o'clock, a in-division game in the NFC East. The Giants-Eagles on Sunday on Fox, Diesel. The 5-2 Eagles, that is, are favored at home by 7.5 points. New York's bad, but they're at least watchable now because it's not Russell Wilson at 94 years old running around with a walker and a cane, right?
Yeah.
You got Jackson Dart. You've got Cam Scatterbo.
Yeah.
Scatterboo, whatever it is.
Scatterbo makes this team watchable. Yeah. You want to see him
it's fun.
Destroy himself.
Yeah.
In a way.
And again, they're 2-5, 0-4 on the road. So their chances Sunday as 7.5-point dogs are slim. But we have seen Jackson Dart, Diesel, he's given them a chance in every game he's played, pretty much.
Watching Cam Scatterbo play offense, play running back is kind of like back in the day you watched Jackass where they would do the bits where they hit each other in the nuts. And you're like, you're hurting yourself. You know that you're probably not going to have kids because of what you're doing to yourself right now, but I can't look away. I want to see Cam Scatterbo treat the crown of his head like a weapon.
He's fun to watch, man. He's just reckless in a way, right? And we would love, to your point, we love watching reckless things. Also in the 1 o'clock window, a big one right here in the Carolinas, Diesel, the 4-3 Carolina Panthers, who, by the way, are 3-0 at the Bank of America Stadium, I tell you. 3-0.
I like it.
Undefeated, hosting the Bills.
Bills have not looked crisp and clean and playing quality football for a couple of weeks now. And Carolina, don't look now. The matchup predictor, 44% chance for Carolina to win this game. How bad? I don't know that they win.
Yeah.
But the spread on this one is 7.5. I think Carolina keeps it close. I think they cover.
I do too. I would love for this game to be a fourth quarter game. You know, just at least give us a fourth quarter game. Don't let it be a blowout.
Plus, Andy Dalton is playing, so we don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
We don't know if old Andy could get it done this weekend against Josh.
Red Rifle, baby, coming for Josh Allen. Wouldn't that be
best
fun?
Hair in the game, I'm telling you.
Also at 1 o'clock, the Bears and the Ravens. The Bears are 4-2. Baltimore's 1-5. What a horrible start. Somehow, some way, Diesel. We always talk about these lines being catawamp almost in college football. We did see a report that Lamar Jackson's practicing, but the Baltimore Ravens at 1-5 are favored by 6.5 points over the Chicago Bears. That one doesn't make sense to me.
There is some video surfacing, Cole. Have you seen this video where it would appear that quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson, is getting some late night food from a street vendor, and he is high.
No,
you haven't seen this yet?
I hadn't.
Oh man, he's getting a couple of to-go clamshell boxes of food from a street vendor, and his eyes are glazed over as they could be.
Also at 1 o'clock on Sunday, Niners, Texans. That one is a 2.5-point spread in favor of Houston. Again, that line just does not make sense. Houston at home, I get it, but San Francisco's 5-2. 4 o'clock window, Tampa Bay in New Orleans. Tampa Bay is a 4.5-point favorite. Diesel at 425, the Cowboys and the Broncos. What a huge game. The Cowboys are trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. If you drop to 3-4-1, your season's going to be, close to over. And the Broncos, Diesel, they're 5-2. They're 3-0 at home. They're a good football team. Denver's favored by 3.5 points. This one's going to be tough for my Cowboys. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm nervous. I don't know if we can do it, but we got to win. You're already in the playoffs. Like this is the playoffs because every game matters. So it'll be interesting to see.
Hey, maybe the Cowboys can ride a little hot off that Washington win last week and play better than you expect. I mean, Denver had to make a 33-point comeback in the fourth to win a game.
Yeah, sure.
That tells me the Denver Broncos were awful for 3 quarters. So maybe if you can prevent that fourth quarter from happening, I think you got a chance to win this.
The other 425, Titans 1-6, taking on the 6-1 Indianapolis Colts. The Colts in the largest spread of the week. 14.5-point favorites at home over Tennessee. And then the 8:20 game, Sunday Night Football. How about this one, man? Get your popcorn ready. Are you kidding me? The Steelers and Aaron Rodgers hosting Aaron's old team, the Green Bay Packers. Green Bay on the road, favored by 2.5 points. This one's no doubt the best game of the weekend. And then only one Monday night game on Monday the 27th. The Washington Commanders at 3-4, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs at 4-3. Kansas City, listen to this, is favored by 12.5 points. That's a big spread over a pretty good Washington team. Obviously, things didn't go well last week against the Cowboys, but it's still Jaden Daniels and a pretty solid Washington team. But there's no doubt. Oh, go ahead.
But I was going to say the Chiefs are starting to find their consistency again. Yeah. Last 3 games, even in that loss on the road at Jacksonville, they still scored 28 points. So they've averaged 30 points over the last 3 games, and that's going to win you most football games in the NFL.
It is. Some good games this weekend, some meh games, but come on. 8:20 Sunday night, the Packers at 4-1-1. At the 4-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. Sign me up. That's going to be a lot of fun.
That's the one.
Aaron Rodgers going against his old team. Let's see if he can get it done. That'll be a lot of fun.
Madcraft is on about this Cam Ward video. Have you seen this video of Cam Ward asking a reporter to recall a play call? Cam gets up and you live in this world, so you probably hear it a little bit more than the rest of us. Cam just rattles off like 30 random vocabulary words, and that's the play call, right? He says, okay, Mr. Reporter Man, why don't you recall that back for me? And the guy just sits there like,
that's funny.
I can't do that.
That's funny. I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, it's top comment on the video I saw was, okay, now ask Cam to write a complete paragraph.
Oh, man, that's mean.
Yeah, that's hey, we all have our strengths. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. When we come back, I'm going to make another call for you Tolos to get your upset picks in. That's next. Cole, going to call a little audible on this segment. I do want you, Tolos, to send in your upset picks, 844-326-3663. We need your name, your game, and the spread. We need it before 7 o'clock today or during show hours tomorrow. Thankfully, I think a lot of the people who are outliers are figuring out we got to get it in during show hours. Can't send it to Rob. Can't send it at 2 a.m. You got to send it during show hours.
We had somebody hand deliver their upset pick with a carrier pigeon last week.
Yeah,
and it doesn't count. It's not valid.
No, it doesn't count. We are very specific and strict about how we accept the upset picks. But Cole, this is really interesting. You know, everything in college football is a competition, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You want to win it. Well, the very first USA Today Sports survey of Power 4 conference football GM front office staff is now out there. And now not everybody has reported on this, so it's probably incomplete data. But the salaries that the GMs of college football are making range drastically, Cole. Clemson, their GM, Jordan Sorrells, is 19th in America at $390,000 a year. Really good paycheck, right? Really good paycheck on a daily and a monthly basis or weekly basis, but it is not even close to being at the tippy top level of college football. And I do wonder, does that affect the kind of person that you can get in that role?
In terms of being able to afford the right guy?
As far as quality, as far as aggressiveness, I don't know. It's really hard to judge what a GM's salary should be and what kind of worth you're getting out of a GM when they're so all over the place.
And the fact that not everybody uses them.
Correct.
You know, it's not like it's across the board. This is what an NFL GM makes. Some programs have them, some don't. You mentioned Jordan Sorrells. I talked to him and interviewed him when we had the open house at Clemson, you know, back before the season started. I think GMs are a vital part of college football, but I also believe, Diesel, that there are some programs that could use their GM to be a little bit more hands-on and maybe earn that money a little bit. Wow. I'm not saying they're not earning it, but I think there needs to be a conversation had about what it is that these GMs actually do.
Well, I don't know if Jordan Sorrells is going halfway across the globe seeking out NIL money and investments into the program. The way that Michael Lombardi, the GM at North Carolina, who is by far the highest paid GM in college football, Michael Lombardi is pulling down $1.5 million to be the GM of the UNC Tar Heels.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, you know, here's my whole point. He's making $1.5 million. How much accountability is there on his part for this dumpster fire that you find yourself in with Bill Belichick knowing nothing about college football, looking like an idiot? You know, I mean, he doesn't know what he's doing in the college game. And that guy's making $1.5 million for what? That's my point.
Right. How involved was he in talent evaluation of players? Did he just crap the bed in a major way? Or is his job just to raise money? Is he just a fundraiser? At which point, again, $1.5 million. Second place, Mark Pantoni, the GM at Ohio State. He's making $900,000, tied with Marshall Malchow at Oregon.
What was that last name again?
Malchow.
Gotcha.
M-A-L-C-H-O-W. Malchow.
I love that.
How else would you?
No. I like hearing you say it. I like it.
Is that right?
I don't know. I have no idea. I just wanted you to say it again.
We should ask Chris. We should call him back. Say, hey, what's your GM's name?
Yeah.
No, that's the Oregon guy. Alabama, Courtney Morgan making $825. Austin Thomas at LSU, $800K. So, you know, the tippy tops are making around that $900,000, $800,000 mark. Clemson well below what other schools are paying. And I wonder if that affects, and I'm not trying to impugn Jordan Sorrells. I wonder if that affects the kind of job that he's doing.
It's interesting, man. I think there is going to be more and more like reporting done about college GMs and what their job entails and the relationships with college football coaches. I think it's vital, but doing it the right way is important too.
And it begs another question. Who's overpaying their GM and using money that they could be using for something more productive?
Yeah,
to than paying a guy $1.5 million.
Tolos, it is your opportunity to take over these airwaves. We do a segment every single Thursday at 5 p.m. It's called the Tolo Takeover, and it's your chance to take over the airwaves. You can gripe, you can moan, you can complain, you can celebrate, whatever it is. If it's sports related, if you want to talk some trash about your team, as long as you're outside of the state of South Carolina, because there's no trash talking going on here. Everybody sucks. But the Tolo Takeover, your opportunity to take over these airwaves. Diesel and I sit back, we shut up. Phone lines are open right now, 844-326-3663. Whatever you want to talk about, as long as it's appropriate for the show, obviously. That's next, right here on the Fan Upstate. Going to throw a few topics out here, Diesel, just as a little bait for all of the Tolos out there that are sitting in their car on 85, not moving, yelling at the person in front of them for not going faster, screaming at the lady beside them for swerving over and almost hitting them right there on Pelham Road. Yeah, I'm talking to you. But when it comes to the Tolo takeover, you can call about whatever you want, but you know what? There is so much happening in the sports world. If you want to sound off on something sports related, you can do so. We're going to get into about 20 minutes, Diesel, and 20 minutes from now, the biggest story of the day with these gambling investigations. But also, yesterday we talked about college basketball players now being able to, or G League players rather, now being able to play college basketball. NFL this weekend. Clemson, South Carolina, what's happening? Clemson's by. The list goes on and on. The World Series tomorrow. So many options to choose from, Tolos. The phone lines are open, 844-326-3663. Want to hear from you. It's your opportunity to take over these very airwaves. Are you upset? Are you good, Diesel? Anything that you have to sound off on, or has your day and week just been the best ever?
Well, I mean, it's been okay. It's been pretty good. To use the parlance of the dude, strikes and gutters, some good, some bad. But I'd wonder, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday, Cole, with this new ruling that G League players are eligible if they make under a certain amount of money. It's really complex. It's kind of strange. Tom Izzo sounding off about it, saying that he really doesn't like the people up at the NCAA that are making these decisions, and essentially said, oh, they just made this call because they don't want to get sued anymore. I think it's going to push Tom Izzo out of the game. In the same way that Nick Saban was pushed out of the game or chose, like, here now is going to be the moment that I'm going to exit stage left. Tom Izzo is going to say, I don't want to be involved in this anymore. And I don't know how many more coaches are going to be behind him. How many elite level coaches are even concerned with this kind of stuff. It's like, GM, find me a bunch of players and I'll coach them up. That's really all I want to do. But I think it's going to send a guy like Tom out of the game. And of course, inevitably, as people have already turned on Nick Saban, saying that, Nick Saban couldn't hack it in football anymore. Those people are idiots, by the way. They're going to say the same thing about Tom Izzo.
It's so fascinating that we had this conversation about players getting paid, right? NIL, transfer portal. Now this new story about G League players being able to come from the G League and play college basketball, which is just wild to me. It begs the question, Diesel, of what was the intent behind this to begin with? What was the motive? You mentioned yesterday when we were live at Ingles about the people who have their hands on the steering wheel of college football. When it comes to college athletics, I think that's the biggest problem. Everybody knows that players were getting compensated before NIL, right? It was the brown bags, the McDonald's bags, whatever you want it to be, that's what it was. But like I said yesterday, the thought was, okay, it's being done illegally. The puristic sport was still alive and well. And I know TV ratings have not replicated or shown any sign of downfall when it comes to this new era that we all still want to love of college football. But the reality is people are being turned off by it. People aren't following along as intently as they used to. You may say, well, Cole, there's nothing that shows that in the ratings. I'm just telling you, it's a slippery slope. And while you may not see it in the ratings now, I'm not saying that the ratings are where you will see it. But, Diesel, this is just such a slippery slope with college athletics, with NIL, with these G League players now being able to play college basketball. I just don't love it. I don't love it.
Yeah, look, the diehards are still going to watch. They may not care about it quite as much as they used to, but they're still going to watch, right? So that audience is built.
And so am I.
But all sports need the drive-by fans to tune in and watch, right? The ones that, you're competing for their attention and viewership time slot by time slot every single day. You need those. Fair weather fans is not the right word for them. I'm blanking on the word that I'm trying to think of, but you need those. I think as we continue to erode essentially the soul of athletics and college athletics specifically, I think it's going to turn so many more of those diehards into those, laissez-faire kind of fans. Like, yeah, I'll tune in and watch. If I miss, okay. I think it's more of if you're an Alabama fan, you used to tune in and watch Florida and LSU and Ole Miss religiously because you wanted to see how your competition was doing. Yeah. I think now it's going to be, I'll still watch Alabama every single week, but outside of that, I might go cut the grass or take the wife to the farmer's market or whatever it may be.
And I'm just so interested to see if that'll happen.
That's the word.
Casual. I'm not saying it will, but what I am saying is I find it so fascinating that it hits home quicker than people realize. Like, what do I mean by that? Well, okay, a few years ago, I remember when NIL hit, it was like, bam, smack in the face. Oh my gosh, here we go. They can now get paid, right? Collectives and the so on and so forth. It starts to hit home and people really start to feel differently about it. And by the way, Tolo Takeover, 844-326-3663 if you want to get in on the conversation or take over these airwaves. But Diesel, what my point is, everybody has this feeling and thought of college football with NIL, and everybody's like open to it until it screws up your nest, right? Your nest egg. What I mean is Clemson. Clemson's the example here. It hasn't really ruffled the feathers of Gamecock fans, but when you look at Clemson, okay, Clemson fans 3-4 years ago were probably okay with the fact that NIL was now in the landscape of college football, Diesel, but now NIL has hit Clemson and hit Clemson hard, and so is the transfer portal, just in terms of how this program right now today looks like a shell of themselves. Well, so my point being, I think everybody's opinion on NIL and portal really starts to change once it hits home.
Everybody's okay with NIL so long as their team is one of the select few that is benefiting the most from it. You know, the fans of the Michigans of the world, the Indianas of the world that are now getting Mark Cuban kind of money, that are getting Dave Portnoy kind of money.
Yeah.
They love it. Oh, it's great. It's great that Portnoy put all this money into it. Well, that's not guaranteed that Michigan's going to get that kind of money or commitment from him every year. And it's not guaranteed that Alabama's going to get the commitment from the people that they're getting it from every single year. Money has always made the world go round, but typically money in the past bought you nicer locker rooms because the such and such family, the Bryson family, decided to put $10 million into Clemson's new locker rooms. And you can impress some 17-year-olds that are thinking about making their way off to college with that. But now, I mean, the way this thing has gone to pay to play, it makes me not even want to learn the names of the players on my team, Cole. And I know I've talked about this before. I used to be one of those diehards that as soon as somebody signed with my team and started playing for my team and was playing well for my team, I wanted to go find and follow them on social media and stick with them. And I cared what these guys were posting about. But now, like, we're 6 games into the season, 7 games into the season, and when they say so-and-so catches a first down, I'm like, who? Right. I don't know who that guy is.
Don't know the name.
I hadn't even bothered to learn the roster. Why? Because they're not coming back next year in all likelihood. If they have a good season, one good season with us, they're gone. So I better not. I might as well not even bother learning their name.
You know what I also find intriguing about the conversation with NIL and the portal is the fact that we heard Tom Allen speak yesterday, the defensive coordinator at Clemson, Diesel, and we had this audio yesterday on the show. The NIL and the transfer portal is such a huge aid to a lot of teams. You mentioned a minute ago, until your team's not using it, you don't have a problem with it, right? Clemson, the NIL and the portal have not aided Clemson. And in fact, the NIL and the portal have hurt Clemson in a tremendous way because the way that Dabo Swinney has built his program just isn't suitable for this new landscape of college football. And you hear what Tom Allen said yesterday about what he looks for in players, what he wants in players. Tom Allen said he wants speed on this defense. He wants guys who play for the love of the game. So you have this teeter-totter. You have this imbalance, Diesel, of this conversation. What I mean is, yes, we see this working and aiding a lot of programs across the country, and programs are benefiting from these things. But Tom Allen said yesterday, hey, these guys that are homegrown, I'm paraphrasing, basically what I heard, these guys that are homegrown Clemson players, they've got their money, right? Because NIL is a thing on Clemson's campus. They're not fast enough. They don't love the game as much as they need to. So in order, going back to the conversation you and I had last week, in order to find the guys you want to find that play for you under your scheme of defense, you're going to have to use the portal. This whole mindset of like, I want God-fearing guys who are, love their family and come from good families, and then they will love Clemson, and it's all in like, you continue to, again, check those boxes, and the applicants are going to get smaller and smaller. Tom Allen said yesterday that people aren't reading into that as much as they should be. Tom Allen basically said, these guys, the guys that are here on my roster, they're not doing what I need them to do. So that just throws a wrench in Dabo Swinney's theory of, we've got to have these homegrown guys. That's not working. You got to go get good players.
Jonathan on the stream says these foreign-born players have been getting paid professionally overseas and then come and play college basketball. So what's the difference? What's different than American-born players going off to the G League and then going back to college? Well, Jonathan, I don't think foreign-born professional players should be allowed to come to America and play college basketball. If you're a professional anywhere in the world, you should have to make your way into the NBA or make your way into the G League. You want to get into the NBA? The G League is your stepping stone to get there. I don't think college basketball should be that stepping stone. Now, we always knew that college basketball was the developmental league for the NBA, and then the NBA invented this G League. The NBA, Adam Silver is certainly not going to shut down the G League to benefit college basketball, even though that at this point that might be the right play to shut that down and make the avenue you have to go back and play college ball again, or you have to come through the college ranks, or if you're a professional overseas, you make your way straight into professional basketball in America.
Yeah, it's weird, man, and you can put it any way you want, but professional players coming back to play college ball doesn't make sense in any realm of sport and amateurism and professional.
It's based on how much money you make in the G League. They just randomly set a $40,000 pay salary. If you make less than $40,000, you can come back and play college basketball. Well, to me, that means you made a terrible decision. That means you chose not to go play college ball, or you chose to leave college ball early, whatever your path might be. You made a bad decision. You're not making any money over there. And you say, oh, man, look at all that green that's getting thrown around in college basketball. I need to go back and do that instead.
Let's go to the phone lines. The phone lines are open, by the way, 844-326-3663. If you want to get in on this conversation, if you want to call with your upset pick, if you want to sound off on something random, you can do so. 844-FANFONE. Madcraft wants to weigh in. What's up, Madcraft?
Yo, hey, can you guys remind me, did y'all make any kind of predictions for tonight's NFL game?
No,
but we can if you need us to. You want a prediction?
Well, yeah, what's your prediction, Cole?
No Aaron Jones, Minnesota? Nah. Carson Wentz, uninspiring? Meh. I think the Chargers get back on track. They've been bad lately. Your team has. The past 2 weeks, they have not been crisp. I like them to get back on track tonight and cover and win. Cover the 3 points.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I do think it'll be close, though. That coverage is going to be questionable, I think. But I do think it'll probably go over.
What is the over-under? Do you know? Off the top of your head, Matt Kraft?
I want to say the last I saw was 44.5.
It is 44.5. Yep. Just looked.
Yeah, so I'm liking over that.
Yeah,
just because our defense hasn't played that well, but but we'll see. One thing I wanted to say though, just to clear the air. All right, we're getting a lot of our offensive line turf injuries back.
Oh boy!
So that's going to be a big part.
A big part due to the turf. That all the one turf caused all the injuries on your football team is what you're saying, right?
Yep, all the way back. I still have grievances in the NFL. I haven't heard back from them yet. But
okay, well, why don't you just call up the Meadowlands and say, hey, I've got whatever it costs, $30 million, $40 million for you to strip out this turf and install natural grass.
There you go,
Madcraft. That you could be the change that you want to see in the world.
If I was rich enough, Diesel.
There you go.
If I was rich enough.
All right. Well, there you go.
Man. Texter says, did y'all see the Louisville guy that came from the G League? Yeah, Texter, we talked about it yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe we had audio, or maybe we didn't, but we did discuss it.
Well, to Jonathan's point here, he's saying, I agree, but we've allowed it forever. Why is Izzo complaining now? They start playing professional overseas at like 16 years old. We're arguing two very different points.
I think so too.
He's arguing, hey, this has been allowed for years with foreign players. It should be allowed now with American players. You and I are arguing this is bad for the game. This is not a fairness conversation. This is not a, hey, we need to have one standard across the board conversation. We're arguing that this is bad for the game to allow this and erodes the opportunities for high school players, which is the traditional way of development and making your way into professional ball.
And go ask high school coaches across America and parents of standout athletes, especially in like baseball, basketball, football too, but in those sports where the lineup's a lot smaller, go ask how NIL and the transfer portal have already hurt seniors trying to come out of high school and be recruited. It's tremendously hurt them, and this is only going to hurt them worse. I mean, why even recruit at all? I mean, we had the audio last year, or maybe early this year, Diesel, of Rick Pitino talking about this, of who he recruits, and you just look at the trickle down effect. It's not good for the game. It's not good for the high school players who are trying to get recruited across the country. You know, even the IMGs of the world and all these big academies where you're playing. I don't want those guys. I can go get a G League guy. Yeah. I want an older team to make a Final Four run. I'm going to go get a G League guy. I'm not going to go get a 16, 17, 18-year-old out of high school.
Yeah, and the problem that I see is there's no form of limitation on this that I can see. You know, the abstraction of, well, it all is based on money and how much money you have. Well, there's no ceiling on how much money could be involved here. We're talking about billion-dollar cash infusions from private equity. We're talking GM from North Carolina flying overseas to try to get money from the Saudis. We're talking about money coming in from everywhere. So it's not like there's some form of limitation. You know, we used to talk about roster sizes in college football, the number of guys that you could have on your roster as being a limitation of how much talent you could actually put on a team. Granted, you had to make your way through the system and develop over a couple of years before you had a chance to play, but at least there was a limitation on it. You know, what happens when you know, the amount of money, the pools that these programs have just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And you know, it's not distributed fairly between even power team. It's the handful that have it, that can buy any player they want at any time off of anybody's roster, whether it be somebody in conference, whether it be somebody in another power school, whether it be somebody off of a Division II or a mid-major. They can just pluck whoever they want at any time because they've got the money. Is this at all healthy for the game of basketball, of football at all? No, it's not.
Texter says, this is Jacob in Spartanburg. Jacob says, what are y'all's upset picks? I'm just now tuning in. We have quit the upset picks challenge, Jacob. We're not participating anymore.
God, if I fall all the way back to 0, I might quit.
I'm kidding.
I think there's a chance that could happen to me.
Diesel is going with?
I'm going with App State over Old Dominion for 14.5 points.
That's a big spread.
Big one.
Point. What is that Saturday game? It's not Friday, is it?
No, that's a Saturday game, and I don't know the kickoff time off the top.
Kickoff with App State, Old Dominion, I believe is 3:30, but I could be wrong on that. It might be like a noon game. You know, I think that's interesting.
It is a noon game.
Oh, yeah. What do I know? Idiot. I took a game tomorrow night, and let me verify, because obviously I didn't know when App State played. Yes, tomorrow night, 7:30. Cal at Virginia Tech. Cal's 5-2. Virginia Tech's 2-5. And the Hokies are favored by 4.5 points. I'm going with the Bears of Cal to take down Virginia Tech. 4.5 points, not a big spread at all, Diesel. I think that will be a close game, but it's one of those weird spreads. It just scares me. And look at there's another App State Tolo Upset Picks Challenge entry. Let's go.
I just want to set myself up, Cole, so that I finish the season with points. If I can hit on this one, I guarantee that I finish the season with points at the very least. I can't guarantee that I'll have any chance of catching my wife, who's in 5th place right now.
Yeah, you need to quit sending her freaking picks and games to choose from. What are we doing here?
She always finds the one that I send her.
Yeah.
I send her my early leans. I talk about them on the show.
What you should.
She always picks the one that will hit. I don't know how she
You
does
need to start sending her like 30-point spreads. And, our luck, she hit on that too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bad. For the latest standings, the Fan Upstate on Twitter, also on Facebook, you can see the Upset Picks Challenge standings. Let's get those upset pick entries in. I see the Gingerbread Man, Tolo Yardbird, JWE, Frank Wagner, Jacob in Spartanburg, Pushkin. I like that name. Lyman Rob, Sparty, Eric from Boiling Springs, Tolo J. Butane says, y'all know Saban's going to Florida, right? Is College Game Day in Florida this weekend? Is that what he's going to Florida? Is he going to Florida to fish? Beach house? He's not going to Gainesville, Tolo J. Butane.
He's going to tow his pontoon boat down there with 2 big old Evinrude motors on it. In his GMC Denali pickup truck. That's how Nick Saban's going.
No,
to
they don't
Florida.
make those anymore. Evinrudes, they've quit them.
Oh, did they?
Yep, canceled.
I didn't know that.
more.
Shows how much I know about boating.
Yep.
When we come back, Cole, let's dive into this dirty story of gambling, the mafia, the FBI, and active NBA coaches and players. Next. Going to get into it. The biggest story in sports today here in just a moment. The FBI investigating and arresting multiple key figures in the NBA over a betting scandal. But I do want to get to this text here from Eric in Boiling Springs, kind of putting a cap on this conversation about NIL, the portal, and all that from the last segment. He says, you're going to see more high school kids in all sports going to smaller schools and work their way to the bigger schools by way of the portal. I'm not a fan of the portal or NIL, but it's the nature of the beast that is the NCAA. Yeah. Well, here's the problem with that, Eric from Boiling Springs. All these kids may choose to go the smaller school route, but the smaller schools identify players that are good, that didn't get recruited to the big-time programs. They coach them up. They spend money to coach them up and to recruit them. And then as soon as they identify a talent, boom, it gets stripped away by somebody else. Like there, without any compensation whatsoever. I still think there needs to be a buyout for a player. We need employment contracts first, and then a buyout from the player. So if South Carolina wants to get a guy from the transfer portal who started his career at Georgia Southern, they should have to compensate Georgia Southern for taking their asset away.
Yeah.
Right now, they don't have to. They don't have to in any way, shape, or form. So at least in my vision of how it should go, you have to pay X amount of money to pull a first-year guy out, second-year guy out, third-year guy out, fourth-year guy out. And then the school has to decide, is it financially worth it for us to go get that third-year starting offensive lineman from Georgia Southern and bring him here to be a backup at South Carolina?
True.
You have to make that call. Right? Is it worth it? I'm just making this up off the top of my head. If it's $250,000 to pull a rising senior offensive lineman from a Division I school, then you have to pay that school $250,000 to cover the development costs that they spent for 3 years of college to get him to that point and make him valuable enough for you to want to pull him off his roster.
It's good text, Eric. Appreciate it.
There you go. Cole, this is a wild story, and it was all over front pages of sports websites and magazines all over the place today. A huge betting scandal involving the FBI, Chauncey Billups, the head coach of the Trailblazers, and Terry Rozier, who spent some time playing in Charlotte. A huge gambling investigation going on right now that it includes tons of bets on Terry Rozier played games, betting the unders on players. This is a nasty thing. That's a huge black eye for the NBA.
So Portland Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups, who is a well-respected coach, was a well-respected coach, right? And you mentioned Terry Rozier with Miami, who spent some time in Charlotte, and a former Cleveland Cavaliers player and assistant Damon Jones, who has now been linked to giving information about LeBron's injuries from when he was in Cleveland. I don't know if he was there under Ty Lue or the second regime of LeBron, but they've all been arrested. You mentioned this. It's huge. I mean, it is a total of 34 people have been arrested as the result of a years-long investigation covering 11 states involving tens of millions of dollars. Law enforcement officials said these were the multiple charges involve 4 mafia families.
Oh my God.
Organized crime networks. Kash Patel saying the money involved the fraud is mind-boggling. So when we talk about this is not like Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups with an illegal bookie, who has a website, an offshore website, and they're spending a little. No. This could be, outside of the Shohei Ohtani situation, this could be the biggest sports gambling story ever in the history of sports. It's bad.
These stories, the frequency that we're hearing them is rapidly increasing, right? Was it earlier this week or last week we heard a story about some illegal betting and point shaving in, I think it was Division II games. I'm not entirely sure. It was smaller, like mid-major size schools. That happened earlier this week. Now we got this story. Last year we had the Shohei story. Constantly we're hearing so-and-so is involved. And I want to know from you, Cole, as somebody who is more into sports betting than I am, and full transparency. Yeah, I had that endorsement with the sports book. You've got an endorsement with the sports book. For me, it ultimately it didn't grab a hold of me to the point where, like, after I finished doing that endorsement, I didn't see the need to tune in, or I didn't see the need to put money on games, my own money on games. It just didn't grab me the way that it does other people.
Yeah, it does grab other people. And you know what's crazy when you're thinking about these coaches and professional athletes making millions and millions and millions of dollars, you think to yourself, you ask the question, they're making all this money. Why would they why would they put 2,000? You know, it's so mind-boggling. And I guess
many people who get caught. Correct. Why would you think this is a good idea? Why would you think you can get away with it? Chauncey Billups, you're a basketball coach. And why would you think you can outsmart the FBI?
Billups, who was arrested in Oregon, by the way, is charged in a separate indictment alleging a wide-ranging scheme to rig underground poker games that were backed by mafia families. So it's as dirty as it can get. It's as nasty as it can get. I guess the only good thing, and I say this tongue-in-cheek, halfway joking, the NBA regular season last year wasn't the best. I did not enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the finals. I didn't enjoy the playoffs as much as I normally do. A lot of that probably had to do with LeBron not being there. But I guess this is the best thing for ratings, maybe, now that we can know these players, Diesel, are actively throwing games. Now we'll all watch. I say this half jokingly, but somebody, you know how quick the internet is on these things?
Sure.
There's a video I saw on TikTok a few hours ago of Terry Rozier in Charlotte throwing the games. You can literally see him throwing bad passes, throwing the ball, and it's the games. I mean, it's unbelievable now that you have this evidence. You never would have thought, but here we are.
This is in the article on ESPN saying the defendants, quote, had access to private information known by NBA players or NBA coaches that would likely affect the outcome of games or players' performances, and provided that information to other conspirators in exchange for either a flat fee or a share of the betting profits. Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, said, let's not mince words. This is the insider trading saga for the NBA. That's what this is. He talked about it as fraud. Think about it like this. And you may say, well, I don't really gamble. I watch the games. That's messing with your emotional capital of the game. If you spend money at all, like going to games, you've been defrauded because now you're seeing a product that is not what you expected it to be. If you have put money on these games before, I wonder, Cole, and if I was a frequent bettor, and I would have no reason to be involved in this, but if I was a frequent bettor on these platforms that offered these games, I would be trying to set up a massive class action lawsuit against the NBA, against the NFL. Now, the NFL is not necessarily involved in this story, but so let's just keep it on the NBA. The NBA, I would be suing all of these Prize Picks and DraftKings and FanDuel and ESPN bets and Underdog. You guys are sitting here throwing out bets that I'm putting my real money into that are fraudulent.
I'm telling you, you hear a story like this and you almost feel like there's just no way. When Kash Patel on a random Thursday morning, the director of the FBI is having this conversation, this and I've got some audio from that presser. It just makes you ask the question, Diesel, as a sports fan. We talk about slippery slope with NIL and transfer portal. Where's this all going? What's the end game here? What's going to have to happen for all of this to be put to bed? I don't know the answer. I don't think anybody knows the answer. And that's the scary part, right? Nobody knows.
I mean, it can start with, if I put money on a game that Terry Rozier or these other players that are involved in this were in, I should get my money back. They should issue me a refund for the game that I picked.
Oh yeah,
because it ultimately turned out to be a fraudulent game, right?
Yeah.
That is the very least that all of these books could do. I don't know how bad it has to get, Cole, or if it can even get this bad for these major leagues to say, all right, enough is enough. We're not going to deal with these sports books anymore, because the NFL was reportedly getting $2.3 billion of infused cash every year through these sports books. Major League Baseball, $1.1 billion. The
Way
NBA,
too much money going around.
over 500 million. The NHL over 200 million. That's money that they would have to say goodbye to if they were to say, all right, washing our hands of this. Sports books, it's been fun, but it's getting too murky. We got to pull out.
And what's crazy, this year-long investigation, and they arrested Terry Rozier this morning at a hotel in Orlando, Florida. I mean, this has been a long investigation. Here's some audio from Kash Patel earlier today.
Individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches. What you don't know is that this is an illegal gambling operation and sports rigging operation that spanned the course of years. The FBI led a coordinated takedown across 11 states to arrest over 30 individuals today responsible for this case, which is very much ongoing. Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against La Casa Nostra to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchesi crime families. And you'll hear more about those details today. The charges and the arrests that were taken down across this country range from wire fraud, money laundering, extortion, robbery, illegal gambling. This FBI will leave no room for any perpetrator of crime across this country. You hear a lot about our work of defending the homeland and crushing violent crime. Well, this work is also representative of a colossal portion of the FBI's mandate to keep America safe and to keep our entertainment industry fair and secure. The men and women that are standing up here today worked tireless hours, days, months, and years. And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery across a multi-year investigation. And we could not have done it without our interagency partners that are before us today. The NYPD, HSI, and teams of law enforcement officials from around the country made this day possible. It takes a team to bring this kind of justice, sweeping justice, into the halls of the United States courtrooms, where our brave United States attorney has led this prosecution. It takes courageous prosecutors to stand before you and say, we will not allow this kind of illicit activity to happen, not only at the national sporting level, but also where it hides in La Casa Nostra. And when these two collided together, they perpetrated a fraud that is historic in terms of not just money, but the scheme and the deceit that they utilize to steal and swindle people for money, to include crypto fraud. This is an operation that showcases to you that under President Trump's administration, there is no room for any type of criminal behavior, be it on the world's largest stage or in the back rooms of tiny parlors where card games are being played. We are proud to stand here today with the men and women of the FBI and this legal team.
So when's the documentary coming out? When's the Netflix drama, the 30 for 30, coming out? Right?
So a real question, does this give you any pause in putting money on tonight's games?
No, because Prize Picks is paying me to do so. You like that answer?
Okay.
You like that?
I mean, let's just pretend for a moment that you're not being paid by Prize Picks. Would you say, I don't know, man, like this, if it feels dirty, I don't know if I want to put my actual real money on this.
Wait a minute. Gambling only feels dirty now that these people, if you've gambled before, it should always feel
gambling
dirty.
Legally when you know that there has been organized crime involved in rigging games and swindling you out of your money. Like what if you at one point had bet over on Terry Rozier one night and all of a sudden here he is, you say, man, I want my money back.
It is almost in a way like eye-opening, but again, for those out there who do Prize Picks or any kind of other, sports book application or program, whatever you use. My point being, for those out there who have sports gambled, wagered, you know what you're getting into, because like for me, Prize Picks is paying me to have an endorsement and I'm picking more or less on, player props. You read it and you're wanting players and people to get involved. But then again, at the same time, it's a scary, slippery slope we live in, because some people like Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier and these others evidently can't just gamble. They can't play cards. They've got to, you know what I mean? I'm terrible with my words right now, but my point is there are ways to do it legally, and then there are ways to be on the FBI's most wanted list, and you've seen Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups do it the wrong way.
To parse your words there, you thought you knew what you were getting into because players were cheating. Players were intentionally distorting their performances to take the under, to go under. They were taking themselves out of games. Multiple players would, if the over-under was 15.5 points, a player would score 12, and then, oh, man, I got a calf strain. I got to come out of the game. I mean, you thought you knew what you were getting into.
Yeah, I mean, but it's gambling. You know, it's like when you speed going in the road, you know you're speeding. I hope that answers your question. I don't know. I feel like I'm not answering it, but I think your original question was, does it make you feel differently now? No, you gamble. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Not really.
I get what you're saying. I just disagree. Like, yes, you understand that you're gambling, but you thought you were gambling on a fair, legitimate game. And then it turns out you're not gambling on a fair and legitimate game. Sometimes, I'm sure most of the time you are.
Yeah.
But in this wide-ranging fraudulent case that Cash Patel had to list off every denomination of money, it's not $1. Yeah. It's not $10. It's not $30. Like, we get it, Cash. Just say tens of millions of dollars, okay? Just stop wasting our time. You're not LeBron James. You're not making an announcement here. But when you think about it on the scale, and we don't know all of the names of the 34 people who are arrested yet. We don't know if it's what if it was LeBron James?
Yeah,
what if that's the reason why this is the year he's taking time off? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud here of how big this spider web could go, and how many people might feel defrauded by this.
And we haven't heard from Dewey either today. Maybe Dewey's on that list at 34. You never know. Dewey, where you been, man? Are you alive? Are you okay? We hadn't heard you on the text line, hadn't called, hadn't seen you on the stream. Let's do a little welfare check on Dewey. ACC and SEC action this weekend. What is it? We'll take a look at the ACC and SEC slates next. Well, with all the betting conversation to be had, what are the lines this week in the ACC and SEC? I'm kidding, not really, kind of. But the ACC slate, the SEC slate this weekend for a lot of you Clemson and South Carolina fans looking around what your other teams are doing in conference. The ACC starts off tomorrow night, 7:30, Cal, Virginia Tech, a game. Breaking news, or the line has now moved to 6.5 points. It's moved 2 points.
There's something going on.
Something's weird. Virginia Tech now favored by 6.5. Saturday, Syracuse at Georgia Tech, Virginia at North Carolina, SMU at Wake Forest this weekend, 3:30 Saturday, NC State, Pittsburgh, 7 o'clock, Stanford making the trip to Miami, also at 7:30, Boston College, Louisville. Not a lot of great ACC games this weekend. Clemson's off. I think the one I look at and circle, well, two, NC State, Pittsburgh might be entertaining for the wrong reasons. But Diesel, SMU, Wake Forest, this is a big game for SMU. They're 3-0 in conference, 5-2 overall. If they want to somehow, some way continue this miraculous season, they can't allow this to be a trip up. They just beat Clemson last week. They can't allow this to be a hangover game. Wake Forest is not horrible. They're not great. SMU is only favored by 3.5 points. I'm telling you, in the ACC, this is the game to watch this weekend.
Well, consider the fact that SMU, granted they're flying private, don't cry for them, Argentina. They're on comfy airplanes, okay? But they had to fly to Clemson, fly back home, fly back to North Carolina for a game to play Wake Forest. I mean, is there a possibility that much travel back and forth wears them down just enough for Robbie Ashford and Wake Forest to get them?
It shouldn't.
It shouldn't, but you never know. I mean, these players are used to traveling 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying.
I know the ACC doesn't have the most intriguing slate of games this weekend, especially, like I said, with Clemson. Where's Florida State? They're not in there either. But that one game could be the game to keep your eye on. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but don't be surprised. Don't be surprised. In the SEC, Ole Miss, Oklahoma at noon on Saturday. That'll be a fantastic game. We talked about earlier, the loser might be on the college football playoff bubble. 12:45, Auburn, Arkansas. 3:30, Alabama, South Carolina. Also at 3:30, Mizzou, Vandy. 4:15, Texas versus Mississippi State. That'll be a good one. 7:30, A&M, LSU. And 7:45, Tennessee, Kentucky. Diesel, A&M, LSU, talking about consequential games going back to the first segment.
Yeah.
If LSU loses this game, their season's done.
Right.
5-3, 2-3 in the SEC. A&M's favored by 2.5. They're undefeated. They're 4-0 in conference, but this is a must-win game for Brian Kelly, or this season where you were predicted to be really, really good. The season's done. This is it.
Yeah, I mean, we may be talking, hot seat territory for Brian Kelly at that point. If you're an LSU coach, you can't lose at home to Texas A&M to put yourself out of playoff contention in October.
They're going to.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that'll be maybe the best game of the weekend. I really think so.
I think this Ole Miss Oklahoma game could be the deciding factor for Lane Kiffin going to Florida. I mean, let's say they lose that game. They're very close to being eliminated from the playoff conversation. He says, I can't get the kind of players I need to win national championships at Ole Miss. I'll go to Florida and get them.
That'll be fun. That'll be fun for sure.
When we come back, we're going to do a wide-ranging audio blitz. I've got college coaches. I've got NBA legends. I've got players in the NBA. I've got so much.
How did the first NBA on ESPN sound like last night?
Got that too. That's coming up next. We can sit here and wax poetic about what players do, what coaches think, how the fans should react. But, Cole, it's always good to hear it directly from the horse's mouth. We do it in a segment that we call our audio blitz. A lot of people call it an audio blitz. I'm going to let you pick and choose. Kind of like, those old choose your own adventure books. It says, should Indiana Jones jump over the snake pit, or should he use his whip to grab a hold of something and swing across? Go to this page if you want that. Go to that page if you want him to do that. I'm going to let you choose, Cole. Okay. What sport should we start with?
I want to hear Terry Rozier.
I bet you
Can
do.
I hear that? Can I hear Chauncey Billups? Can I hear that?
I don't think we've had access to their one phone call. So I don't think we have that.
That's what I want to hear. I mean, they're by the way, they are covering, and I'm watching the TV on our studio. They are covering this, and rightfully so, because it's maybe the biggest sports gambling story ever. From the time this show started at 3:00, till right now at 6:02, this has been on the TV, the wall that I'm looking at, for 3 hours, and right. I love it. I mean, it's wild. It's dirty. It's the biggest sports gambling story I think I've ever heard in my life.
For a dirty business that has weaseled its way in to be so integral and so lucrative for the biggest leagues in America to have a scandal this big and this ugly.
Oh, it's bad.
That's a big deal. I just wonder, Cole, I know you probably didn't watch the show. I want to know, where's the Saul Goodman coming from, who's going to build the class action lawsuit to sue these sports books to death?
I don't know.
You got it. Any game that I bet in where I pick the over on Terry Rozier, I want my money back.
And I also am thankful that your broad shoulders, you must have been going to the gym a lot lately. Your broad shoulders have covered up the TV behind you.
Yeah. So you can actually watch.
I can watch it. I mean, new camera angle. I mean, Diesel's been hitting the gym. I know we got a, email earlier about going to the gym. I'm just giving you credit.
That email, by the way, and I have to give him crap for it on the air because he pokes his head in here and disrupts us all the time.
Let's do it.
It said in all caps, in bold, do not reply all to this email. Reply directly to me and Stone Man from Classic Rock 101.1. What does he do? He replies all.
I'll say this about Stone Man real quick. I like the guy, but there are things in life that I can't stand people doing. I can't stand when you get in the left lane and just go super slow, 60 miles an hour on 85. I can't stand it. I can't stand when you stop in a turning lane where the lane continues onto the next road. I don't know, right here off of 385. I can't stand when somebody always hits reply all to an email.
Yeah.
And Diesel, Stone Man, he does it every single time. I don't know what his problem is, but
because he's British.
Well, are Britons just incapable of not? I mean, you click reply. You don't reply. I don't want to see your email. Do you know how many emails we get? I guess this should have been my gripe on the Tolo Take.
Yeah.
That guy, if y'all listen to Classic Rock 101, I encourage you to do so. It's one of our Odyssey stations, but gosh almighty.
Okay, so before we get into this audio blitz, what is the minimum speed, as in plus over the posted speed limit? What is the minimum speed that you can carry to stay in the full far left-hand lane, the passing lane? So if the speed limit's 65, what is the minimum speed that you can go and stay in that lane?
Well, I'll answer the question by saying my opinion. If the speed limit's 65, let's say 85, for example, on 85, sure. 65 on 85. Mm-hmm. If you're in the left lane, you should be going a minimum of 75.
Yeah, I agree.
You should be going 10 over. That is the speeding lane.
All right. So if you're doing 10 over in the far left passing lane, doing 75 and a 65, and there's a car behind you that clearly wants to do 85.
They can wait.
So that's a good question. Yeah. Is it incumbent upon you?
I'm already breaking the law
to get out of their way.
No.
Is it incumbent upon you to speed more for them, or is it incumbent upon them to figure out a way to go around you?
That's like you and I both going and robbing a bank tonight, and you being the greedy guy, behind me wanting to. We're both robbing the bank, Diesel.
Right.
There's no I'm speeding, you're speeding, so it's not like I'm going 50.
Yeah. If I'm doing 10 over, you don't need to tailgate me. I am not going to speed more for you.
That's right. It's kind of like, hey, we're already breaking the law. We're not going to break the law anymore because you, stupid idiot behind me, if you go by and we both go that speed, we're going to get caught.
Yeah.
I mean,
if I'm doing 75, I get a ticket. If you push me to do 85, I might get my license revoked.
And the bad thing is, I get on 85 at least twice a day at a minimum to come here and go home. I hate the people who just sit there in the left lane and just poke. I mean, I'll get up on them. I'll blow the horn sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling.
You got to get your ass out of the way.
Oh, it's so annoying. It's awful.
If you are not doing 10 over, you get out of that
lane. Get in the right lane.
Get out of that lane. Let cars behind you.
And 18-wheelers are the biggest problem because they get over to try to pass. Well, it takes them half an hour to pass, and it's awful. It really is.
All right, Cole.
Over.
Would you like to? And all of a sudden, bam! There's text messages. Yeah. It depends on how fast the person behind you is going. Move over for faster cars, regardless.
Not if I'm speeding.
Texter, how am I supposed to know how fast the car behind me is going?
Yeah.
Tell me how I'm supposed to know how fast that car wants to go.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
And to Diesel's point, I'm already speeding. If I'm running 10 over, I'm not tough. You can speed and break the law with me and go 10 over. I'm not going to move out of your way because you want to go 20 over.
This is not Germany, okay? We don't have the Autobahn here where you're allowed to do 125 if you've got a car that can do it.
I've always wanted to go there and do that.
It's not my responsibility to get out of your way or to speed more for you
I agree.
I'm already speeding and passing traffic. I certainly will not sit beside a car that's also doing 75 in the middle lane and just sit beside him. That's a jerk move.
Well,
I don't do that.
Guess what? It happens. And I'll tell you what I will do. If somebody's being a you-know-what and they're riding you and you're going fast, I have, and this is not nice, this is not Christ-like of Cole to say this, but Diesel, sometimes when they're, being a you-know-what, I'll get up beside a slow car, and then all of a sudden I'll adjust my speed about 15, block them in, about 15, decrease by 15 miles an hour, and then they're back there, flipping me a bird.
Texter says, you can tell how fast they're going by how close they are on your rear end. Well, Texter, I'm just trying to save you from yourself, okay? I'm trying to save you from getting a speeding ticket for doing 20, 25 over in a 65 zone.
Now, I will say sometimes, this doesn't happen often, but sometimes I do kind of like say, thank you, God. Sometimes you'll be speeding and you'll just get so frustrated. You'll run up on a car behind you on a 2-lane road, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll just slow you down dramatically. And you're so mad, you don't want to pass, and then you'll go over a hill and there's a cop. And you're like, oh, thank God for that car that was going slow, right? But that happens fewer times than not.
Texter says,
what is the text going on right now?
If you're going 75 and they're tailgating you, then move over and let them get a ticket. Well, Texter, if I'm doing 75 and a 65 and you want to go faster than that, you go around me. 6, I am not getting out of your way, 10, okay? 11, I am not 12, getting out of your
13,
way.
14. We've had
crazy,
15
right?
text messages.
Slice of life.
15 text messages
have their opinions
about
on this.
Going fast in the left lane.
Right.
Let's see.
We might not even get to the audio blitz.
We're trying. Texter says it's called a passing lane. Look it up. If it's actually in the name, you're supposed to pass in that lane legally. You can't ride in that lane at any speed, but if you must and move over, let the guy pass. To me, again, that we're already breaking the law here.
Yeah,
so
Texter, if it's illegal to ride in that lane, how come nobody ever in the history of driving ever has been pulled over for riding in the passing lane?
Texter says you're wrong if you're in the left lane and someone comes up behind you and you can't get over. You should. Okay, if I can get over, I will.
I try to. Yeah.
I try. But I'm not going to make this huge effort and put the sandwich and the cookies down and put my drink down and quit, listen to music just for this guy who wants to go 95.
I'm also, if I'm slowly passing a guy, I'm doing 75, again, speeding, doing 10 over, 75 and a 65, and the car beside me is doing 70, and I'm slowly creeping past him. Number one, I'm not punching it to do 85 to go around him. Number two, I'm not slowing down so that I can fold in behind him just so some other car can go. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, if I keep this job and keep working here, I think I'm going to, instead of buying a house, I think I'm going to go get a helicopter. That way I can avoid all this.
Just get a jetpack. You didn't get your jetpack when you signed up to work here, Odyssey?
Texter says, you know what annoys me when I'm sitting in bumper to bumper traffic on Woodruff Road and people are blocking the intersection and some jabroni is still sitting 3 car lengths behind another car.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, if you guys would just vote to put in stoplight cameras in the state of South Carolina, you could have them issuing tickets for people who sit in intersections. But no, we can't have that here.
The last one, I'll be quiet after this. I promise. Maybe. I don't like when this happened to me yesterday. I pull up to a drive-through. If I'm going to rant, let me get this one. And there's two, right? There's the one on the inside and the one on the outside. You know, there are idiots out there, and I mean scum of the earth, that will pull up to the drive-through and stop right in the middle. That way they don't choose a lane. That way they can sit and stop in the middle and see which one opens first. Yeah. And I'm telling you, it happened to me yesterday, and I pulled up beside this lady, and I literally went inside her to get in the inside lane just to prove a point. Like, hey, you choose a lane. If you don't get your chicken nuggets before I get my chicken nuggets, tough. But you choose a lane. This blocking, these people on the roads think they own the roads, and it's unbelievable.
Let's get to some Jersey Joe here, Cole. Yeah, Jersey Joe says, Cole dissing tractor trailer drivers. That is what I do for a living.
Jersey Joe, you will be surprised to know I have my CDL. So I'm not dissing them. No dissing here. I'm sorry.
Let's get to yeah, here we go. Audio blitz, hard left turn. Yeah. Let's get to Kalen DeBoer on what it's like going on the road playing at South Carolina. And he is also saying that the world has not seen the best that Alabama has got yet.
We got to make sure that we understand, how that we're going to be walking into an environment that will get on you in a hurry if you don't bring your best. And the preparation, again, just the investment of time, the investment of your energy throughout the week, leading to a confidence and an excitement to go out there and make plays and to be our best. I still challenge the guys, and they believe it, that the world hasn't seen Bama's best yet. And, that's really what we're striving to do. And when you keep it just really as simple as possible on that, have great preparation, and everyone caring about what we're trying to accomplish, you have that edge. And so we got to stack another week of work, one day at a time, and be ready to go on Saturday.
Just needs to throw in some more alrights.
Yeah,
quit asking.
Ty Simpson does enough of that. Ty Simpson's like Nick Saban made over. He really is.
Let's go to audio from Charles Barkley talking about going on the air on ESPN for the first time on Inside the NBA's debut on the 4-letter network.
Oh, seriously, I got to admit, I was nervous all day.
Why?
Because this is.
Let me stop you for a second. I'll complete your sentence.
Yeah.
This is a dream come true.
I was nervous today.
God, look at Ernie.
And Shaq and
shining on the execs.
Company man.
Every person who's ever touched the ball wanted to be on ESPN. They are the greatest sports network ever. And to be working for these guys is an honor and a privilege. It is.
Oh my God!
Oh, you didn't. Listen to this in high school.
Lay it on thick,
when
Charles.
You were in high school and college, you didn't want to be on ESPN. I'm asking you a question. I'm asking you a question. When you were playing in New York, then you want to be on ESPN?
I will answer that question.
Yes.
But do you want a napkin for all that kissing up?
I love it.
Listen, man, here, man. You just badgered them for every day. Look
hey, sometimes you got to know when to kiss them and know when to diss them.
Oh, is that the Kenny Rogers song?
It is. That's the verse that he never wrote.
That's Diesel's version.
You have some more audio.
I do.
Chuck.
I'm going to get to it in a second. I will say, though, ESPN, like watching that last night, they better be glad they figured this thing out, because it was good to have them back. And we didn't know for a long time, Diesel, exactly how it was going to go with them leaving TNT. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you, man, they are the NBA on TV. It is so good to have them on TV still. I don't care what network they're on. I watched them on TNT. I'll watch them on ESPN, and I have a few more pieces of audio, but I love those guys. And that's one of those shows, Diesel, that is not going to last forever. But guess what? It's the best show on TV. There's no better show. And I know Pat McAfee's great and College Game Day and all this other stuff. There's nothing that compares right now.
There's magic with that combination of guys. Yeah. It's amazing that ESPN was able to keep them all together, keep the show together. That was the best decision they could have made instead of saying, well, Chuck's the talent that we want.
Yeah, we're going to keep Chuck.
We're going to keep Chuck. We're going to keep Ernie, but we're going to let Shaq go. No. You have to. It's a package deal.
So I've got a few more pieces of audio from that. Let's see if it's the same or different.
Man alive, it's a brand new NBA season. Things are a little different. We're still in Atlanta Studio J, but now we're on ESPN. Welcome to NBA Tip-Off presented by Popeyes.
Ernie,
Yes.
you didn't do it right.
What?
You're supposed to say this is TRON.
TRON.
The real opening night. That's stuff you saw yesterday. No.
No, come on,
back
man.
in time. No. This is the
Come
real opening
on.
night.
Hey,
No.
Is he wrong, though? The NBA opening night was the night before, but Shaq's right. I mean, you get that crew on TV. That's the real opening night. Here's how Ernie signed off with SportsCenter details. This was pretty cool.
Sports Center is next. I have 6 words to describe this night.
What is it?
Da-da-da. Da-da.
Hey! The real opening night. Thank you, ESPN. It was amazing.
Oh, man. Tastes like chicken?
What was this? Tastes like chicken? What are we doing here? Let's see, one more or two more.
Because he went to that school in Durham, and then he played on the
Talking about flag.
high school circuit, EYBL, which I have a team on. I saw him a lot.
Way to slide that in.
Yeah, but get to the point. But really, the interesting.
He went to the school in Durham. Shaq, just get to the point. And then one more. I think this is the best one.
You may.
Can you get somebody to do the Popeyes promo with some soul?
Oh, sorry about that.
You may.
Can you get somebody to do the Popeyes promo with some soul? Like he said, a little, love that chicken from, that ain't how you say it.
How you say it, Jack?
Love that chicken from Popeyes. Love that chicken from Delete that. Love that chicken. Hey.
Shaq's telling him how you're supposed to say the Popeyes theme.
Put some oomph in it, would you?
Put some soul in it, he said. You got to have some soul. Ernie was too professional. You know, regardless of your feelings on ESPN, it is like it I think it was Chuck that said it. He is right. Everybody at some points grown up watching ESPN in some capacity. It does kind of feel right that network should have those guys because they're the best. And if you want to be the best, you should have them. They're the best. So maybe this will be a good marriage.
At the very least, it makes it easier now because I can find
That's true.
everything I want to watch, most of everything I want to watch on one app. I don't have to bounce around constantly. Let's hear from Joe Flacco, Cole, who describes being lonely in Cincinnati in the funniest possible way.
I think there's always a challenge of sitting in a room by yourself and being lonely. So for me, it's trying to find ways to maybe stay over here a little bit longer and then, just kind of take myself out of that mindset, call home, go sit at a restaurant by myself and realize that, man, that's pretty enjoyable to do. I tell people all the time, I used to see guys sitting at a bar by themselves or, just sitting by themselves eating and grabbing a little meal. And I'm like, man, I feel so bad for that guy. Like, you almost want to go join him. And now I realize that dude was in heaven. And not to say that's obviously not what I want. I'd rather be at home sitting at the dinner table with my kids and hearing what the hell they were talking about all day.
But sometimes sitting down, having your burger and a beer by yourself is so much better.
telling you, I am 110% and always have been team eat by yourself guy. A lot of people think it's weird. I love it. I love going into a restaurant. I don't care.
When you sit down at a restaurant, you're eating your meal.
Oh,
Are you on your phone too?
Yeah.
Or are you looking around the restaurant?
I'll be both. But I love sitting down, having a meal by yourself. I don't think it's weird. I love it. Tolos, we've got Clay Hendricks, the head football coach, the Furman Paladins. He joins us every Thursday at this time. Clay Hendricks next. Well, it's time to talk a little Furman Paladin football, as we do every single Thursday at this very time with the head football coach, Clay Hendricks, over at Furman. The Paladins 4-3 on the season, 2-2 in conference after a tough 31-13 loss to Wofford on Saturday over in Spartanburg. But a big one this Saturday. It's homecoming at Paladin Stadium against the Citadel. We'll get into that game, Coach. Always appreciate you taking time to hop on with us. What do you think was the biggest catalyst, the one thing that you really felt like did not allow your team to get going on Saturday to get the win?
Well, we turned it over 3 times.
Yeah.
It was 8 in 2 weeks now, so it's kind of hard to get going. You lose 8 possessions in 2 games. It's hard to score. It's hard enough to score as it is. I thought we played, didn't play particularly well defensively in the first half, and then I thought we played lights out in the second half. I think they had 2 first downs in the second half. But like I said, we just turned the football over. Missing our top 3 receivers, which that's part of it.
Sure.
But we just didn't do enough of the little things that you have to do to continue to move football, score points, get off the field. Which, again, give them a bunch of credit, but sometimes, again, I think we're kind of our own worst enemy.
Coach, how do you kind of balance sticking with what you do, even if it bit you a couple times, for example, the interception bug, versus trying to move away from that and play to another kind of strength, maybe running the football? Do you like to just go head first at it no matter what, or do you like to change up what you're doing?
Well, I just think you still got to do what you feel like you do best. It'd be nice if you think you're really good in both areas and you could lean heavily on that. I think a little bit the way we're built, and even, at the quarterback position, we don't play with a dual threat guy, or we don't, that's not who Trey Hedden is. And, and so, in the world of college football, it's much like pro football. You're seeing a lot of, depending on what kind of set you line up in, they've got them all up in there.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing a lot of, you're going to get a lot of man coverage, and then they're always going to have you outnumbered in the box. And so, what you'd like to be able to do is take kind of what they give you. So you got to be able to complete throws. And he made a lot of good plays in the past game. But finishing drives, those kinds of things, we'd like to stay balanced. If we hit a few more of those throws and don't turn it over, then we have a chance to kind of stay balanced. And right now, I think we're that team that has to kind of stay balanced. And that doesn't always mean 50-50, but you got to feel like you can be productive in both areas.
Coach, you mentioned you and the Furman Paladins without your top 3 receivers last Saturday over in Spartanburg at Wofford. Can you give an update on those 3 guys?
Yeah, you know what? We'll get some of them back. So I do feel really good about that. And again, I think they had 80 catches, and so we lost 80 catches really the last 2 weeks that we hadn't had. And in 7 games, really 2 of those guys have only played 4 games. I think one of the other ones played in 5 games. So certainly those guys are dynamic. I think as good a group as we've had, which certainly changes the dynamics of the game, and maybe you keep people away from the box a little bit when they're a little more concerned about that stuff. So, but we're making progress. They're getting better. We'll get them all back eventually, but we'll have some kind of combination back this week.
Coach, what kind of psychology have you had to try to employ this week to get Trey Hedden's focus back on track after a couple of tough games, or is he got a guy that kind of internalizes it and has to do it himself?
I think Trey's a pretty mentally tough guy. He's a really, really bright kid. And, you think about guys for 5 weeks, he's one of the top 5 in the country in completion percentage. He was taking care of the ball, was doing a great job in the passing game, managing their offense. And he just had a couple of bad weeks, which kind of comes with that position. But yeah, I think you always try to look at why certain things happen. Really, none of those. I think 2 weeks, I don't think we've been pressured on any of those throws. Just, continue to make better decisions. Sometimes it's a bad throw, which again is going to happen. I think sometimes it's just throw it away. And sometimes, it's perfectly good to punt. Punt's a good thing sometimes. So, he's made the right stuff. He's had a good week of prep. I expect him to play well Saturday.
Coach, kind of going back to what Diesel asked you in terms of what you do different, what you stick to the same things with, what you kind of look at and say, okay, we do this well, we don't do this well. For example, you guys on Saturday, you're at the halftime break thinking, okay, it's a 2-score game, and then you guys make it 21-13 after a Gavin Hall 4-yard touchdown run in the third quarter. So you've got it within 1 score. And then the interception happens. I believe the 66-yard pick six. They go up 28-13, and that pretty much sealed the deal. They tacked on a field goal to make it 31-13. But kind of going back to that, do you and the offensive coordinator have to kind of make in-season adjustments in terms of adjusting the play calling and giving Trey Hedden looks and reads that are easier to make to try to avoid some of those interceptions? Or do you feel like that's more on the personnel on the field?
Well, probably a little bit of both, and if you think about the first one in the first half, I think it was a 7-6 game. And I know exactly where we were. We had 3rd and 4, I think, at their 36-yard line. So we're already in field goal range for our kicker, so we can take the lead either way. I'd already told the OC, at the time, I was certainly willing to go and make it a 2-down situation.
Sure.
So, that affects your call. Maybe you can run it on 3rd down. And we ran an RPO, and I mean, the read was as clear. The safety rolled to the deep middle, and we got the slant wide open. I say wide open. It's clearly open, and their linebacker backed straight up. We probably didn't do a good enough job on the fake, and Trey just never saw him. And you sit there and say, how do you not see that? Well, sometimes you don't see them. It's a little different. I think the other one, he should have just made the immediate, or he just made a poor decision on the second one. He saw the second one, and I think maybe panicked a little bit after should have thrown the ball to the X, and then made a late decision to throw it in there and just throw it to the guy. So, that stuff happens. It's just a little bit of how we finished the first half. We defensively, played really poorly the latter part. But felt fine about where we were, and again we made a 1-score game. We've been in that situation a lot this year, and but then we kind of compound it with some more mistakes. Again, like I said, I think the second half they had 2 first downs, 5 3-and-outs. So obviously we do what we're supposed to do offensively, then it's going to give us a chance. We just got we got to be a team that plays complementary football, and the O's got to help the D, and the D's got to help the O, and I thought we were pretty solid in special teams. And that's the formula for us to be successful.
Coach, as you turn the page and you look at this weekend's task, taking on the Citadel Bulldogs, they at home, by the way, they are kind of an up and down team, right? In some weeks they're scoring 30, 40 points. In some weeks their defense is, their offense is really struggling to kind of score points. If you were to look up and down, Citadel's schedule, and you've played some of these teams already, who do you think you compare most to? And do you think you'll have a chance to kind of hold them down defensively, or do you think you're just going to have to outscore them?
No, I'd be surprised if we have to outscore them. I got a lot of confidence defensively in some stuff we do. I think we have it's funny if you watch them throughout the year, they've changed quite a bit offensively, and they've kind of grown into this gun 3-back team with a lot of option principles in it. It's not a lot of triple option, but a lot of double option, some different stuff. And quite frankly, I think a couple of teams did a really poor job of, defending them. At the end of the day, they do have a physical element now. They're a physical group. There's some direct run stuff in there, but a lot of the option game, the 2 quarterbacks, they play 2 quarterbacks. The 2 quarterbacks drive them, and you've got to contend with them. But historically, we used to see a lot of these type looks. We don't see as many of them as we used to. But we got a lot of coaches on our staff that have prepared our guys for it and have been seen this kind of stuff before. And I think you got to have a plan that's going to give you a chance to be really sound assignment wise. But I think the thing you have to do is you just have to be able to get in the fight, against them. And I think a lot of their struggles early in the year, a little bit was them trying to find their identity. And, one of those games was North Dakota State. And one of those games was Mercer, who was playing really good at the time. And they kind of found their way, and Western gives you a little bit of an unorthodox look defensively. And I think they were able to take that, sometimes take advantage of sometimes their lack of discipline on defense and create a lot of big plays. And so I feel comfortable with, having a plan, understanding what they're doing and how to attack it, but we got to be able to go execute. And then offensively, we got to be able to go finish drives and finish plays. And, I'm excited for our guys to go play. I think 105th meeting between Furman and Citadel. This is my 32nd game. Great rivalry, and we're excited to play.
Coach, to your point there about the option and not seeing it very often, big picture, would you like to see the option come back in a big way, especially to the power level of college football? I know nobody wants to lose players off of their rosters, but there's a handful of, especially FCS and smaller Division I schools that still run the option that could theoretically be a feeder system if a power program wanted to run it. Is that something you would like to see come back to big time college football?
Well, I'd love to see it. I spent 10 years at the Air Force Academy, and I played for a wishbone guy in high school. And I think the better part of my first 30 years, there was always some kind of an option element in what I had done coaching wise. And even for the good bit of the time we were here, when I first came back, there was a lot of that. I think the personnel drives it a little bit. I think probably the thing that hurts the highest levels is it gets used against you a lot in recruiting. If you want to recruit receivers and different things, but there's some people doing a great job of it. Even the academies now, if you watch them, they're not an under center double slot triple team. That's not who they are. I mean, Drew Cronick, who I worked with, Drew was my offensive coordinator my first year here. Is doing a lot of stuff we did, in 2017 at Navy. They're undefeated. My guys at the Air Force Academy, I've watched them some. And it looks to me, obviously, Citadel's been watching some of their stuff. You watch them, and golly, they're top 20 in the country in offense. Mixing both a little bit of gun and a little bit of their under center traditional stuff. And, that's a little bit of part of who I am. So, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see that come back. One of the sad things to me was when they took the low blocking out of college football. And that was somebody having an agenda that had to play Paul Johnson every year. And they got enough votes on the rules committee where they got it banned, because nobody ever showed me any data that showed injuries for low blocks. I see some brutal low tackles, some cut tackles, and we're not going to take that out of the game. So I never quite understood that. And, when you took that out, it just kind of made it goes back to that, who's got the bigger, better players. It was always a great equalizer. And no, I'd love to see it come back. I think in some ways it's making a little bit of a comeback, and all these dual threat quarterbacks that you're seeing.
Talking to Clay Hendricks, the head football coach, the Furman Paladins. Coach, just curious here, when you're game planning against a team like the Citadel, they're led by a coach, and Coach Drayton, who was a special teams coordinator at several of his stops in the NFL, and Maurice Drayton. And you just have to wonder, when you look at guys who have these special teams expertise, we see it at South Carolina and Beamer ball. Do you feel like preparing against a team like the Citadel, knowing what they do offensively, you still maybe have to account for some Beamer ball, if you will, when it comes to special teams, just because of Coach and his extensive career in the NFL coaching special teams?
Well, I think that's a little bit of who they are. Yeah, obviously Maurice does a great job. He's also got his actually special teams coordinator's got him Tony Coaxum, who I've known Tony forever. Tony's a West Point guy. Was at Denver when I was in Springs at Air Force, and known Tony, and he hired him. And so, yeah, I mean, I think in the last 2 years, they've tried to fake 2 field goals against us. They've onside kicked one. I certainly, that certainly has been been a big point of emphasis for us this week. And I think they're a little bit that way. If you watch them offensively, you get some of these, people kind of refer to as muddle huddles. They might line up all 11 guys behind the center and then kind of burst into a formation. So I think all those things you got to be able to handle. But, I don't know if anybody does a better job than Tommy Spanger, our guy in special teams. So I think we're big time prepared for that. But again, I think that's a little bit of who they are.
Gotcha.
You're going to see the gimmick and the gadget plays, and you have to be ready for them, And so I know they tried to fake a field goal last year. I think it ended up being a huge play in the game when we stopped it, and then we're able to get a drive late to go down and score and win.
Coach, given the season, the week of practice that you've witnessed, who are you looking at to maybe have a big week this week, offensively or defensively?
I think Trey's gonna have a big game. I just think he's been so solid all year. Getting a guy like Evan James and Keith Hamilton back. Evan, it's all just made the Jerry Rice watch list as a freshman receiver, unbelievably talented. And we hadn't had him in a month, so getting him back is huge. And Keith Hamilton there. I just feel like offensively, we've played really good at times, but we left points on the field. We just need to finish. And then I'm kind of excited to watch our defense again. I think we have a really good plan that allows our guys to go play fast. And you can play fast, but you got to be disciplined because you're going to attack, and then that guy that's been coming to block you downfield, all of a sudden he runs by you.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of who they are. They are certainly capable in the passing game, but it's not real hard to hit a guy that's 15 yards behind everybody and nobody's covering him, and so those are the things we have to be able to stop. Keep them, first down, I think will be huge because, if you let them it's not the old traditional, under center triple team where you felt like they 3 and 4 yards you to death. They've created a lot of explosion plays at the quarterback position. And, I kind of told our guys, the way all the rules are now about hitting quarterbacks this week, you don't get a chance to hit a quarterback. It's because he's running the ball.
Yeah.
And I think the two quarterbacks are their two leading rushers, and they're good players. And one of them's actually an Air Force transfer. So they're talented. So they're going to continue to make you to defend the whole field. But I'm excited to watch our defense go play.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you as always. Best of luck Saturday, and we'll talk to you next week.
That'd be great. It's always great being with you. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Clay Hendricks, the head football coach of the Furman Paladins. And he's right. That Beamer ball that I use, Diesel, it is a part of their identity. For people that don't know, Maurice Strayton, the Citadel head coach, he was a special teams coordinator in the NFL for a long time. Colts, Packers, Raiders, coached Pat McAfee. He also coached Adam Vinatieri. Everybody knows one of the better kickers in the NFL. So to his point, that is kind of a trademark of one of their abilities is they like to gamble a little bit on special teams.
Hey, it makes the games more fun to watch.
It does.
You can't take those plays off. You can't get up and go to the fridge, get yourself a snack while the punt's going on. You got to stay seated.
Hey, how about this breaking news? We talked about the Georgia-Auburn game, the debacle a few weeks ago. The SEC has suspended referee Ken Williamson for the rest of the season in wake of the performance in the Georgia-Auburn game.
Are they going to give the win back to Auburn? Let them put one in the win column? Because currently they're 0 for an SEC play.
I'm telling you, that is wild. You suspend the referee, you're holding them accountable, which we appreciate, right? But to your point, it doesn't suspending the guy doesn't get you a win back. No, let's do this mulligan. Let's get this game over. That's tough for Hugh Freeze.
When we come back, Cole, we didn't get a chance to get to all of the sports audio. Here's a great one from Aaron Rodgers, who you and I both are a big fan of, talking about getting tackled by his own teammate after throwing that big touchdown bomb. Was that 2 weeks ago? We'll play that audio for you. Wrap up the show next. Oh, Aaron Rodgers, always so grateful for his teammates, always so gracious. Cole, we didn't get a chance to hear from Aaron directly after he got mauled by one of his own players after throwing a 68-yard touchdown bomb. Here is Aaron being asked about that very moment.
When I'm staying clean, the only tackle I had the other night was Broderick, so other than that, I'm feeling pretty good.
What went through your mind when he tackled you in that celebratory moment?
Rod is always the first one to come find me after a play. It could be like the first big pass down to DK on third down. He's coming and dapping me up. And what you don't see in the video is right after the throw, he's coming over to me and shaking me. And like I texted him, I said, hey, man, I love your energy. I love everything you're about. But also, I'm 41. You can't be out there tackling me like that. But I love Brad. We had a couple laughs about it. And, I told him I'm getting him next. You better watch his back.
He's going to get him next? You mean to tell me Aaron Rodgers is going to tackle somebody?
It sounds like he's got a little bit of old Daniel Bateman from The Replacements. That John Favreau's character, the one that was completely nuts, that would knock over his own quarterback for making a big-time play. He's got a little bit of that in him.
I will say, to be fair, tackling your 41-year-old quarterback on the sidelines probably not the best scenario or decision when you're trying to go, contend for a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't do that. But what do I know?
I think it's time for a coach to start fining Broderick Jones. Every time you touch him, we're going to charge you $5,000.
Man? It is funny. It's bad. You don't want to do it, but it's funny. I mean,
you lay 5 fingers on him, it's going to cost you $5,000.
I mean, he mauled him.
Yeah,
he got him good. It was pretty good.
One last little piece of audio before we close out the show. It was a big point of controversy when the NFL decided to name Bad Bunny as the halftime show. Well, Roger Goodell has finally answered the question of whether or not they might think about replacing him.
Roger, when you guys chose Bad Bunny for the Super Bowl, there was some blowback from that. I wonder what you make of that situation and what went into the decision to choose Bad Bunny as your Super Bowl halftime performer.
He's one of the leading and most popular entertainers in the world. That's what we try to achieve. It's an important stage for us. It's an important element to the entertainment value. It's carefully thought through. I would say that I'm not sure we've ever selected an artist where we didn't have some blowback or criticism. It's pretty hard to do when you have literally hundreds of millions of people that are watching. But we're confident it's going to be a great show, and that he understands the platform that he's on, and I think it's going to be exciting and a united moment.
Translation: the Super Bowl halftime show is not for you, dudes. It's for your daughters. We're trying to get a new demographic to tune in and watch the halftime show, and Bad Bunny can get them.
And it's all about what? Money.
Dollars.
All
it's
about
all
the
about
money.
money.
All about the money. Tolos, we will see you tomorrow, a Friday Wire to Wire. We will see you at 3 o'clock. And don't forget to bring your upset picks with you when you come. Tolos.